Part 27. Fringe Artists in the Entertainment Industry. Author, Chizuda Xiaomao. Chapter 271. Chapter 262-260. Black silk stockings that always bring good luck. Stop talking. You won't have to change it later. If you don't tear it up, you'll lose the fun. The princess supported the wall and looked back at Chen Lian. She slapped his hand away angrily and said, "Then I can't go bare-legged. It looks ugly with this skirt." Chen Lian lowered his head and said hurriedly, "It looks good, I like it." The princess couldn't help but take a breath of cold air and snorted a few times before saying charmingly, "Then you can tear it apart." Hiss. This sound officially kicked off the war. Chen Lian has a different feeling for the princess's black silk stockings. It brings him good luck every time. He doesn't know whether it's a psychological effect or whether the princess is really prosperous. But when Chen Lian and the princess came out of the lounge relaxedly, Chen Lian received good news. There are several art collectors in Hong Kong who want to buy this work of his. One of the collectors' names is quite familiar to Chen Lian, the most fashionable rich man in Hong Kong, De Lu. In addition, there are Guo Qingxiang and Su Zhantang, both of whom are also famous art collectors. However, Chen Lian is not interested in selling his works. He is not short of money and will have more and more money in the future. There is no need to sell all his works. Sometimes the fewer works circulating in the art market, the higher the collection value. If your works are all over the street, it means they are worthless. There are some reasons why these people want to collect Chen Lian's works. After all, what happened before was very unpleasant, and Xiang Zhang is about to be blacklisted by many international artists. However, collectors like Lu just want to make money. In his words, collecting art is much more cost-effective than buying a house. He previously set an investment return standard for himself, which is at least 100 times for porcelain, 10-20 times for traditional Chinese paintings, and at least 5 times for oil paintings and modern art. This calculation is indeed much more cost-effective than buying a house. De Lu has also paid attention to Chen Lian's affairs in the past few days. After all, Xiang Zhang is so small and Chen Lian has made such a big fuss. It is unrealistic not to know about it. What's more, Chen Lian has been very popular in the art world in the past 2 years. His works have already exceeded 10 million Hong Kong dollars in the circulation market, and will be even higher in the future. Moreover, this work is obviously more valuable and has more potential than the previous ones. There is a story behind this work, it is popular and has special significance for the times. It is not impossible to fetch a sky-high price in the future. Lu consulted his art investment consultant in detail, and the other party strongly recommended that he acquire this work. Now he can collect it with tens of millions of Hong Kong dollars. It is definitely not a problem to double it tenfold in the future, or even dozens of times. It's hard to say how long this future will last. It may be a few years or a few decades, but no matter how you look at it, it is a work of art worth investing in. De Lu was quite curious about Chen Lian. An artist also liked acting and had scandals with many female stars, which made him feel like he had met a soulmate. He also likes female celebrities. Moreover, Lu was also very interested in Chen Lian's investment in the mainland. He was surprised to find that he owned a large VCD company, with sales this year exceeding 800 million. It may even exceed 2 billion or even 3 billion next year. This is a very legendary figure. He is engaged in art and business in his early 20s. The most important thing is that he does not delay picking up girls. De Lu thought back to when he was this age, and it seemed that he couldn't compare to others at all. He really wanted to meet Chen Lian, but Chen Lian didn't really want to meet him. There is also a difference between a scumbag and a scumbag. He and De Lu are two different types. They can't talk to each other when they meet, and they may still be competitors in the future. It's better not to meet each other. Even if we meet, Chen Lian will not sell it to Dalu. You want to buy it, but I'm sorry, we are not short of money, so we won't sell it. What's more, Chen Lian doesn't want to buy his own works at all. Even if he really wants to buy them, he has to go through Jifa. He will not sell his works without authorization. Jifa was still on the plane at this time, thinking about how to settle the score with Chen Lian after arriving in Xiangjiang. He always made big moves when he wasn't paying attention. Fortunately it was a surprise, otherwise Jifa would have been so angry. Jifa is very excited now. She is already thinking about how much Chen Lian's work can sell for this time. If it doesn't sell for more than 2 million, she will be in vain. $2 million. No no no. Chen Lian has made such a big noise now, and this work has been recognized by so many artists. It will not work unless it sells for more than 3 million. Jifa felt excited just thinking about it. Chen Lian finally learned how to hype and package it. He looks a little bit like a capitalist. It's not that stupid. Jifa is now thinking about how to fool the LV boss. He has collected so many works by Chen Lian and he will definitely not want to miss this piece. Jifa looked at the white clouds outside the window and felt that the future was bright. It's just that Jifa will be disappointed this time. Chen Lian has no intention of selling this work. He created it for the art space and for his career, not for the small money in front of him. Chen Lian here rejected the art investment consultants of Dalu and several other collectors, and made it clear that he would not sell, but he welcomed them to visit here next year, and then they could collect the works of other mainland artists. Chen Lian's attitude towards them is still very good. They are all potential big customers in the future. After seeing them off, Chen Lian went back to continue chatting with the artists. Li Lijhen was ready to leave now, but she couldn't help but wanted to go over and get to know Chen Lian. But before he even took the initiative to speak, when he walked in front of Chen Lian, he saw Chen Lian looking at him with his mouth open in surprise and saying, "Li Lijhen." Li Li really didn't expect that Chen Lian could recognize her and be so surprised, with a hint of surprise in her eyes. "Teacher Li. Nice to meet you," Chen Lian said as he looked at Li Lijhen and stretched out her hand. Li Li was really confused. Why did she call her teacher when she opened her mouth? Are mainland artists so humble? Thinking of an artist like Chen Lian calling him teacher, Li Lijhen felt a little embarrassed and stretched out her hand to shake his hand and said, "Hello, I'm Li Lijhen, but can you please don't call me teacher? I'll call you teacher." Chen Lian smiled and said, "No, no, just call me by my name. I'm your fan." Chen Lian is still very humble about Li Lijhen. This is really his first teacher, and his dream lover when he was young. Even when he saw Li Lijhen now, Chen Lian was still a little happy, as if the dream he had had when he was young suddenly became true. Movie fans. Li Lijhen suddenly felt a little ashamed. She had long been able to calmly look at the fact that she was making a restricted movie, but for some reason, when she heard Chen Lian say that she was a movie fan, she felt a sense of inferiority in her heart. The clothes that I had taken off in the past seemed like they could never be put back on again, as if I was standing naked in front of Chen Lian. If Chen Lian was just an ordinary movie fan, Li Lijhen might be able to joke a little with him and ask him if he wanted an autograph or something. But now he couldn't say a word, he just retracted his hand and his eyes were a little wandering. Chen Lian noticed the change in Li Li's expression and couldn't help but cursed himself, "How can you say that you are a movie fan?" But Chen Lian soon came to his senses, looked at her and said, "I really like your role in Big Era, it's very cute." The Big Era, Li Lijhen was stunned for a moment, and suddenly looked up at Chen Lian. Was he a fan of the TV series? Then has he seen those R-rated movies he made? He should have. Li Li's eyes really dimmed again. Chen Lian did not continue the conversation on this topic, looked at her and said, "I didn't expect you also like painting. It's an honor for you to come and see my work." Hearing Chen Lian's words and his sincere expression, Li Lijian felt inexplicably warmer in her heart. Thinking that Chen Lian had just called her teacher Li Lijian felt that he might not mean to discriminate against her for having made such a movie. Li Lijian felt a lot more at ease, looked at Chen Lian and said, "I like your work very much, it's very shocking and very good." After mentioning two special words in a row, Li really felt that her vocabulary was too limited compared to those artists. She was a little embarrassed and searched for a few more words and said, "It is very shocking. Every time I see it, I will be amazed, feel the decay of life." Chen Lian's expression paused, the decline of life. This is a bit different from the concept of my own creation, but from the white side of the heart, there is nothing wrong with treating red as the passage of life. Your perspective is very unique. You are the first to say so. Chen Lian looked at Li Lijian and said seriously, "This is an perspective that many people have not thought of. Your perspective is very keen. You should be an art critic of me." Li Lijian was stunned for a moment, then shook her head and said, "I can't do it. Why does a 30-year-old woman have no self-confidence at all?" Chen Lian feels that Li is really sensitive and has low self-esteem, which is very different from the goddess he imagined. Chen Lian looked at Li Lijian and stopped talking about this topic. He just smiled and said, "Thank you for coming to see my work. I hope I can see your paintings and talk about art together in the future. I'm not good at painting. I feel like I've never gotten started," Li Lijian said, twisting her hair. Chen Lian smiled and said, "There is no so-called introduction to painting. Just paint if you like it. Painting is to express your inner world, and it is not a competition for middle school students for a trophy." Perhaps it was Chen Lian's seriousness that made Li Lijian relax a lot, and all the negative emotions in her heart disappeared. She smiled and said, "Okay, I will definitely invite you to see my paintings when you have the chance. See you next time." Li Lijian waved at Chen Lian and left. After Chen Lian watched her go out, he suddenly thought of something and quickly chased after her. "This is my phone number. Be sure to notify me when you finish the painting." Chen Lian handed a business card to Li Lijian. Li Lijian looked at the big red business card, reached out to take it, nodded seriously and said, "Okay, I hope you will still be in Xiangjiang by then." "Well, I will be in Xiangjiang recently," Chen Lian said with a smile. Li Lijian put the business card into her bag and said with a smile, "Then I will finish the painting as soon as possible. Let's go, bye." "Bye-bye." Chen Lian looked at Li Lijian's leaving figure and suddenly thought of Li Lijian's innocent and lovely appearance when the peach was ripe. I didn't expect that she could still maintain such good performance after so many years. After Chen Lian took a few glances, he turned around and went back. As soon as he entered, he bumped into the princess coming out of the lounge. "Why did you come back from outside to see someone off?" the princess asked curiously. Chen Lian nodded and said, "A painter friend." This is not a lie. Li Lijian is also an amateur painter. The princess didn't care when she heard what Chen Lian said. She swung her big white legs and said, "I feel a little cold without stockings. When will you finish? I want you to stay with me all night. It'll be ready soon. Just wait for me." Chen Lian glanced at the not-so-thick skirt on the princess's legs and said, "I'll treat you to Rongqi tonight." "No, I want to go home and eat. I want to give it to you." Chen Lian was a little surprised by the little woman's attitude of the princess. She would not be like this in the past. What happened today? But since she had this idea, Chen Lian was naturally willing to do it, just to see if the diva's skills were the same as singing. Chen Lian thanked the artists one by one and said goodbye, ending today's salon gathering. Ito Muragi, who has never given up, also invited Chen Lian to go to Hokkaido next month to see the snow hot springs, saying that Chen Lian would definitely let Chen Lian see their sincerity. The most important thing is that it will let Chen Lian see the enthusiasm of Tokyo. After Chen Lian saw off Ito Muragi, he couldn't help but twitch the corner of his mouth at the enthusiasm of Tokyo. It sounds unfair. But you still have to see the snow and take a dip in the hot springs. As for sincerity and enthusiasm, that doesn't matter. Not important at all. Unless it's Shizuka Kudo, Ri Miyazawa, Akina Nakamori. At around 11 o'clock in the night, the princess, who had finally finished eating, was lying on the bed unable to move. Her beautiful collarbone and lower abdomen were covered with fine beads of sweat. She had really tried her best just now. Chen Lian hugged the princess lovingly, slid his fingers gently on her collarbone, and said softly, "Jingwen, you are awesome." The princess turned over and lay in his arms and said, "Take me to take a bath, I'm covered in sweat." Okay, Chen Lian picked up the princess and entered the bathroom. A few minutes later, the cell phone that Chen Lian threw on the bed suddenly rang, but the ringtone could not be heard at all in the bathroom filled with the sound of water. At the airport in Xiangjiang, Jifa listened to the busy signal on the phone and hung up the phone angrily. "How dare you not answer my call? Chen Lian, you are dead." Fringe artists in the entertainment industry. Author, Chizu de Xiaomao. Chapter 272. Chapter 263-261. Jifa's fantasy, I want to monopolize modern art. The early morning sunlight was particularly dazzling, shining directly through the torn curtains. Chen Lian, who was sleeping, frowned and opened his eyes. He turned his head and glanced at the curtains that had been removed by the princess last night, recalling the scene from last night in his mind. The princess's physical condition is still not suitable for hanging, but she is quite strong and the curtains were torn. Chen Lian got up from the bed, looked at the sleeping princess, and without waking her up, he dressed and left after washing himself. Take advantage of the fact that there are fewer people in the morning and escape quickly, in case there are paparazzi squatting outside. After Chen Lian slipped out of the back door of the villa, he went directly to the Peninsula Hotel. Jifa called him several times last night. He never answered Jifa's call and only returned it after the exercise. Thinking of Jifa angrily scolding him for more than 10 minutes last night, Chen Lian felt a headache. When he passed by a flower shop, he bought a bouquet of flowers. I hope it can appease Jifa's irritable little temper. Chen Lian came outside Jifa's room, rang the doorbell and waited for 2 minutes before the door opened from the inside. Jifa, who had messy hair, opened the door and was about to curse when she saw Chen Lian handing a bouquet of white roses to her. Jifa's anger at getting up was immediately dispelled by the beautiful rose. She took the rose and sniffed it gently, frowned before letting go, glanced at Chen Lian who was smiling, and then moved away. Chen Lian came in with a smile and closed the door. There was no better way to deal with a French woman than roses. The room Jifa lived in was very luxurious, but it was messy, with clothes scattered everywhere. Chen Lian also saw Jifa's underwear thrown on the sofa. Chen Lian looked at Jifa wrapped in a nightgown and placing roses on the table, and couldn't help but bend down to put away the clothes and high heels on the floor. How come a beautiful woman doesn't pay attention to anything? Chen Lian shook his head while cleaning up. Jifa sat on the sofa with her legs crossed and looked at Chen Lian. Her confused brain gradually became clear, and she couldn't help but choked, "Why didn't you answer my call last night? Why didn't you pick me up?" Busy, Chen Lian said casually, then changed the subject and asked, "Has Bai Qing returned to the capital?" "Well, I know I care about Bo Qing." Jifa couldn't help but curled his lips, patted the sofa and said to Chen Lian, "Come here, I have something to tell you." After Chen Lian placed Jifa's high heels, he walked over and looked at her and said, "I have no intention of selling the series of works. If they are sold to collectors, they will only eat dust in the vault. I want my works to be seen by more people arrive. If you really don't think about it, it can be sold for at least $2 million this time. You can almost see the tail lights of the top master's car." Jifa couldn't help but persuade. Chen Lian shook his head and said, "If you don't want to sell it, please stop trying to persuade me. Then I'm not here in vain. Jifa looked at Chen Lian angrily. Chen Lian glanced at her sheepishly and said, I didn't ask you to come either. Stop talking. Jifa pushed Chen Lian down, sat on him and said, anyway, I can't come in vain. Chen Lian looked at Jifa's pajamas spread out and couldn't help but swallowed. He didn't know whether to be sad or angry or excited. It's so hard for a man. If you don't make money for a woman, you have to be humiliated like this. Chen Lian shed white tears of grief and anger, which covered Jifa's body. Jifa wiped her body with her slender fingers, pinched the sticky tears with her fingers, turned to look at Chen Lian who was taking a break and asked, are you really not going to sell? Not for sale. Then tell me what's going on in this art space of yours. You are interested in. Of course, as long as it's art related and can make money, I'm interested. 10 minutes later, Jifa, who was soaking in the bathtub, listened to Chen Lian's words, thought for a while and said, then why didn't you come to me in the first place? You should have brought Bernard with you. Chen Lian shaved his beard and said, I didn't think much about it at first. I just thought about doing installation art. Later I gradually came up with so many ideas. Jifa couldn't help but roll her eyes at Chen Lian. After soaking in the water and thinking for a while, he stood up from the bathtub and said to Chen Lian seriously, I want to become a shareholder. Buy shares. Chen Lian looked at Jifa in surprise and said, but the risk is still quite high, and it may not be as profitable as your gallery. It definitely won't work according to your original idea, but you can learn from Givenchy. Don't just focus on the artwork, luxury goods are also art. Isn't that teacher Chen? Chen Lian didn't want to make luxury goods or fashion brands, he just wanted to make works of art. Artists rarely have a suitable platform for their works to be exhibited, and they are too niche and closed. Chen Lian just wants to make art more accessible to the masses, so that more people can understand art and own art. There are so many artists in China, and most of their works are gathering dust at home. It is basically impossible to sell them without professional galleries and art managers. What Chen Lian wants to do is to be different from the art trading platform of galleries. Artworks will no longer easily cost tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands or even millions. 99% of artists do not have that kind of talent, and their works are not worthy of packaging and marketing by galleries and art managers. But it would be a pity if those works were buried, so Chen Lian thought of turning it into a small art supermarket. It is different from traditional cheap handicrafts and more accessible to the people than expensive works of art, so it is still very marketable. The petty bourgeoisie and the middle class will like these things very much. Compared with handicrafts, wouldn't it be more stylish to have a few pieces of art at home? The price is not too outrageous, you can afford it with a few thousand to tens of thousands of dollars. Moreover, works of art are unique, unlike mass-produced luxury bags. No one can guarantee whether these works of art will appreciate in value in the future. What if that artist becomes famous in the future, and the things he buys will be doubled? It can also be regarded as an alternative investment, and can also be regarded as opening a blind box. While the petty bourgeoisie cannot afford to invest in the real estate market and cannot afford to buy stocks, they also have an additional investment choice. Art investment is also a good choice. Moreover, Chen Lian plans to find ways to launch 2 artists in the first year to create an advertising effect. Jifa, who had just dried her hair in the room, seriously persuaded Chen Lian to accept her suggestion and let herself become a shareholder. With my joining, I can help you contact more new artists to join, constantly replenish fresh blood, and I can also help you cultivate truly great artists. Jifa suddenly stood up and looked at Chen Lian and said seriously, if we do well, we can even monopolize the works of most new artists. This will affect the entire modern art trading market. Jifa couldn't help but get excited thinking about this. Although this idea was crazy and unrealistic, it was very exciting just thinking about it. Ji-fa suddenly thought of China's classic strategy during the anti-Japanese war, where the countryside surrounded the city. Bypassing the top 10 auction houses and controlling art from the bottom up, one day it will be able to indirectly affect the entire art trading market. But Ji-fa was just thinking about it. The art trading market was very deep, so it couldn't be done so easily. Chen Lian looked at the excited Ji-fa but didn't think much about it, and didn't think it was possible to reach the height Ji-fa said. He was just seriously considering the possibility of letting Ji-fa become a shareholder. He felt that if there were too many people involved, it might be very troublesome in the future. There will always be various troubles when friends start a business together, even if the interests and responsibilities are clear from the beginning. However, if professionals like Ji-fa join in, Chen Lian is indeed very excited. Although his own method is very different from that of art trading, he still needs the help of art managers. Ji-fa and Cheng Shifen complement each other very well, one is targeting ordinary people and the other is targeting high-end customers. Chen Lian was really excited when he thought about it. With Ji-fa's joining, he could become a hands-off shopkeeper. In daily operations, Wang Zuxian helps to keep an eye on it, which is perfect. Chen Lian hesitated for a while and looked at Ji-fa and said, "It's not impossible, but I still have two partners and I need to ask their opinions." "I am confident to convince them," Ji-fa looked at Chen Lian and said seriously. Chen Lian nodded and said, "Okay, let's meet and talk today." "No problem." Chen Lian asked Cheng Shifen and Wang Zuxian to come to the peninsula to meet. While Ji-fa was waiting for Wang Zuxian and Cheng Shifen to come over, she was still talking to Chen Lian about making luxury goods. Chen Lian hummed a few times without much interest. He didn't like luxury goods, especially those foreign luxury goods and industrial products. It can't be considered a luxury product. A steel ball bracelet can be sold for 10,000 yuan. Isn't this a big fool? Priceless woven bags in China cost several thousand yuan each. It has nothing to do with art, nor does it have anything to do with fashion. Putting a brand on it becomes a luxury product. Real luxury goods still have to look at domestic handicrafts, which are unique luxury goods. However, the only bad thing is that the aesthetic progress of domestic handicrafts is too slow and too conservative. They blindly pursue retro and are difficult to be liked by modern people. Such good craftsmanship was lost because it could not be sold and no money was made. It's a pity when I think about it. They should be assigned a few designers. It's outrageous if the craft masters really only know handicrafts. Chen Lian met a bamboo weaving master who was very good at weaving, but he didn't know how to design. The things he made didn't look good and he couldn't sell them. It's a pity just thinking about it. Amidst Ji-fa's chirping, Chen Lian's thoughts had long wandered to nowhere, and it wasn't until he heard familiar footsteps that he came back to his senses. "Here we come." Chen Lian looked at Wang Zuxian and Cheng Shifen who were walking together and turned to Ji-fa and said. Ji-fa nodded and said to Chen Lian, "I will talk to them personally later, just don't talk." So confident, Chen Lian looked at her strangely, wondering why she was so confident. Ji-fa raised her chin proudly and said, "I'm better at dealing with women than you." Chen Lian, who are you looking down on? Compare your abilities. However, Chen Lian did not say anything in the rest of the conversation. He only served to introduce them to each other at the beginning. Chen Lian threw a piece of sugar cube into the coffee cup out of boredom. Looking at the beaming Ji-fa trying to fool Cheng Shifen and Wang Zuxian, he felt that she was more suitable for MLM. Being an art manager is really a waste of talent. Chen Lian took a sip of the already sweet coffee, looked around boredly, and suddenly saw Leslie Chung and the Sunglasses King. Could this be a happy together? Chen Lian couldn't help but muttered, a little worried that Leslie Chung would accept this film. The movie is a good movie, but Leslie Chung was infected with the virus when he went to shoot it. Later, after it was released in Hong Kong, it was criticized by the gossip media and was even publicly humiliated at the Academy Awards. Thinking of this, Chen Lian couldn't help but stand up and walk towards Leslie Chung and the Sunglasses King. Wang Zuxian, who was listening to Jifa's talk about the business plan, noticed it, sat up slightly and looked in the direction where Chen Lian was walking. Cheng Shifen and Jifa also noticed it and turned to look over. Seeing that it was Leslie Chung and the Sunglasses Queen, Cheng Shifen took the initiative and said, "The Wang family has a new movie to shoot, so I have an appointment with Guo Rong here today." Wang Zuxian snorted and then looked away. However, Cheng Shifen's next words made her a little worried. Cheng Shifen looked at Chen Lian's back and said, "It's a gay-themed movie. I heard that Lian was rejected by Liang Chaoei. Now I don't know if Lian will be attracted by Wang Jiaei. I was asked about Lian before." Huh? Wang Zuxian immediately sat up straight and said, "No." Wang Zuxian had made Wang Jiaei's movie and knew his filming routines. She was a little worried about Chen Lian and Leslie Chung. These two people usually have a good relationship. If they make a same-sex movie together again, if they develop feelings, it will be over. Jifa also understood and said nonchalantly, "Lian can't act in this kind of movie. I heard him say that a director has asked him to act in this kind of movie before." Hearing Jifa's words, Wang Zuxian breathed a sigh of relief, but Cheng Shifen said with a smile, "But it's not certain this time. He and Guorong have such a good relationship, they might agree." When Wang Zuxian heard this, she couldn't sit still immediately. She stood up and went over to stop this terrible thing from happening. However, Cheng Shifen grabbed him. "Don't go over there and cause trouble. I was just joking. You know their personalities and they won't make this kind of movie together. What if? Nothing unexpected." Cheng Shifen didn't want the two of them to act in this kind of movie, it was too dangerous, but she also knew in her heart that Chen Lian and Leslie Chung would not make this kind of movie together. Chen Lian on the other side hadn't even walked in front of Zhang Guorong when Zhang Guorong saw him. He sat lazily on the sofa and looked at him and said, "Why are you here? Come here to talk about something." "I saw you here and came over to say hello." After Chen Lian finished speaking, he glanced at the Sunglasses King and asked, "If you don't mind if I sit down?" Wang Jiaei looked at Chen Lian standing next to Zhang Guorong, and a lot of inspiration came to his mind unconsciously. The two people were sitting and standing, one was lazy and the other was slightly serious, which was an inexplicable match. The most important thing is that the feeling between them gives Wang Jiaei a very strange feeling, not like ordinary friends. Wang Jiaei sat up silently and said to Chen Lian, "I want to make a movie with you." "Chen Lian, I still wanted to kidnap Zhang Guorong, but you decided on me first." You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Fringe artists in the entertainment industry. Author, Chizu de Xiaomao. Chapter 273. Chapter 264-262. I want to break your legs. Not interested in. I won't cooperate with him. Chen Lian and Leslie Chung said at the same time, which made Wang Jiaei a little strange. The two of them had a tacit understanding, and they felt inexplicably in harmony. Wang Jiaei looked at Zhang Guorong strangely and asked, "Why don't you cooperate with him? You have cooperated several times." "I don't want to cooperate with him in this movie," Leslie Chung said seriously. Wang Jiaei frowned, probably guessing why Zhang Guorong was unwilling to cooperate, so he turned to look at Chen Lian and asked, "Why are you not interested?" Chen Lian sat down and looked at him and said, "I don't want to work with him. I've told him a long time ago that I won't co-star for him unless I play his part. That's even more impossible." Wang Jiaei's eyes flashed under his sunglasses, and he turned to look at Leslie Chung and said, "I'll go talk to Liang Chaoei again, but the time you only gave me 6 weeks is a bit short. The scenery in Argentina is very good." Leslie Chung clicked his tongue and said, I only agreed to act after I agreed not to be like ashes of time. I only have 6 weeks. No matter how beautiful the scenery in Argentina is, it doesn't matter to me. I still have to prepare for the concert. Wong Kar-wai nodded and was about to continue chatting with Leslie Cheung when he was interrupted by Chen Lian. Chen Lian looked at Wang Jiai and said, "I'm sorry to interrupt you. I have something to talk to my brother about. Can I borrow it temporarily?" Wang Jiai was a little surprised, but still nodded to let them do as they pleased. Chen Lian tilted his head at Zhang Guorong and motioned for him to go and chat with him. Following Chen Lian to a table not far away, Leslie Cheung asked curiously, "What are you doing, so mysterious?" Chen Lian also said straight to the point, "Did he ask you to star in a gay-themed film?" "Yes, otherwise why would I refuse you to act?" Zhang Guorong smiled and joked, "I just want to be friends with you, I don't want you to fall in love with me." Chen Lian rolled his eyes at him angrily and said, "Let's play for a while. Don't accept this movie, it won't be good for you." "Why?" Zhang Guorong was very surprised. He knew that Chen Lian was not a homophobic person, and he should not have any objections to movies with this theme. Chen Lian sighed and said, "It's too controversial, and you're too devoted to your acting. I don't recommend you to act in a film with this kind of theme. It's not good for your mental health." Zhang Guorong, "Although I am very moved, what kind of bullshit reason is this? I'm not afraid of controversy, I just don't care what others say," Zhang Guorong said seriously. Chen Lian said helplessly, "It's true that other people's opinions don't matter, but you are sure you don't care at all? Moreover, Sister Shifen told me that you have some mental problems now and you often go to the doctor. If you really go to act, I'm worried that something will happen to you." Zhang Guorong was silent for a while and said, "I'm fine. I know my own situation better than you," and he is very sincere. "I also like the story he told." Seeing Zhang Guorong's serious look, Chen Lian was helpless. He was also a stubborn person. He insisted on acting even though he knew the ending. He really didn't care about the consequences at all. "Well, the most important thing is that you don't have time. He makes movies so slowly. Do you really think he can finish filming your scene in 6 weeks?" Chen Lian said with his last effort. "His current script is more than 2 pages. I won't even stop you." Zhang Guorong, "There is not even 1 page of the script, and the filming location has not yet been decided." Seeing Zhang Guorong's silence, Chen Lian immediately continued, "The hundreds of thousands of tickets for the concert have been sold out. The concert is the most important thing. What are you thinking about going to Wang Jiai's movie at this time?" "I have already promised him," Zhang Guorong said silently. Pushed it away without signing a contract, Chen Lian stood up immediately and said, "I'll go tell him for you." Leslie Cheung immediately stood up and grabbed Chen Lian and said, "No. I haven't thought about it yet." Wang Jiai, who was sitting not far away, watched this scene, and suddenly a lot of inspiration came to him. He felt that the status of Chen Lian and Zhang Guorong was exactly the same as what he thought in his mind. Now he really wants to invite Zhang Guorong and Chen Lian to act together. This feels so right. Wang Jiai became inexplicably excited, thinking about how to persuade Chen Lian and Leslie Cheung to star together. On the other side, Wang Zuxian and the others saw that Zhang Guorong and Chen Lian seemed to be quarreling, and they couldn't help but feel worried. "Why are you so quarrelsome?" Although Wang Zuxian was quite worried, deep down in her heart she was faintly glad that she didn't have to worry about what would happen to her brother and Lian. Cheng Shifen looked a little worried, but she still sat there without moving, and kept looking nervously at Chen Lian and Zhang Guorong. Of course it wasn't a quarrel, but Chen Lian felt an unknown fire in his heart. He felt that Zhang Guorong was just not clear-headed, so why did he insist on acting in Wang Jiai's play? "I haven't read the script yet, but I just heard a few words from others and decided to go." I forgot that I almost fell from a building while filming Days of Being Wild and almost died from poisoning while filming Ashes of Time. I almost lost my life while filming a few movies with Wong Kar-wai. If I went to shoot Happy Together, I would get infected with the virus and almost die in Argentina. Not to mention these risks, the most important thing is that Wang Jiai doesn't care about your life or death. What is the point of cooperating with such a person? Chen Lian couldn't help but break away from Zhang Guorong's hand and said, "Forget it, I don't care about you. You can do whatever you want. I'm not your father." Zhang Guorong frowned and looked at Chen Lian, and said angrily, "Don't make fun of me, I will think about it myself." Chen Lian glanced at him and said, "I'll break your legs when I turn around." Leslie Chung. Street boy. You're just kidding. If you really want to take a photo, I won't stop you. I've already said what I need to say, but remember to bring a doctor with you. After Chen Lian finished speaking, he shrugged at Zhang Guorong and said with a smile, "Actually, I want to break your legs." "Get out," Zhang Guorong rolled his eyes angrily. Chen Lian couldn't help but shook his head and said, "I will never work with a director like Wang Jiai in my life. I really don't know what you are thinking. I have already made 2 movies and I still want to make them. I don't know if I have tricked you. Come on, I won't talk to a fool like you." After Chen Lian finished speaking, he ran away, leaving Zhang Guorong who wanted to hit him without any time to react. Zhang Guorong looked at Chen Lian's leaving figure and became shaken in his heart, whether he wanted to act or not. After Chen Lian ran away, he sat back at Wang Zuxian's table, crossed his legs and looked in the direction of Wang Jiai and said, "This guy doesn't look like a good person with his sunglasses on." "You are judging a book by its appearance," Wang Zuxian replied with a smile. Chen Lian snorted and said, "Who is a good person who tortures actors so much? Shooting a scene is like stepping on the rind of a watermelon. It doesn't matter where you get." Chen Lian himself doesn't have much resentment towards Wang Jiai and admits that he is an excellent director. However, as a friend of Leslie Chung, he can't bear to see Leslie Chung being so tortured by Wang Jiai. The filming of Happy Together was delayed, and Leslie Chung didn't care if he was sick. Because the time dragged on for too long, Leslie Chung returned to Hong Kong early, and he even scolded the actor for not cooperating with the director in filming, but asking him to cooperate with the big star. "Look, this is something a normal person can do. Why do you have such a big opinion against him?" Cheng Shifen looked at Chen Lian strangely and asked. Chen Lian came to his senses and said perfunctorily, "No, I'm just worried about my brother having an accident when he takes on his role." "Probably not," Cheng Shifen said with some confidence. But thinking that Leslie Chung almost died while filming 2 of his movies, Cheng Shifen couldn't help but worry. People in Hong Kong believed in these things. "Maybe the horoscopes don't match up," Cheng Shifen muttered, planning to go back and find a master to figure it out. Chen Lian didn't care anymore, looked at Jifa and asked, "How was your chat with them?" "It's good. They have agreed to my investment," Jifa said with some pride. Chen Lian was not surprised and said seriously, "Then we'll sign the contract later, but one thing we agreed in advance is that you can't interfere with me, otherwise you won't invest." "I know, don't worry." Jifa patted Chen Lian on the shoulder and said, "I didn't realize that you have a business acumen before. If you really do this well, you will sweep the art world in the future. Stop dreaming, let's build things here in Xiangjiang first." Chen Lian felt that Jifa was a bit over the top. He was just playing on the internet in the art circle. He didn't know if he would be acclimatized. All those new and impoverished artists have settled on their own platforms, which means they have merchants, but they still don't know how to develop users to register and shop. The internet is a waste of money, but Chen Lian doesn't have that much money to burn, and he doesn't have a specific strategy. Both Jifa and Cheng Shifen had already thought about Chen Lian's question. Cheng Shifen had made a plan before, but now that Jifa, a professional art manager, has joined, the plan has to be changed again. Jifa and Cheng Shifen sat together and had a heated discussion. They both placed their next plans on Xiangjiang and Tokyo, and decided to open the market from here. Europe has the two art centers of Britain and France, and America has the art center of the United States. These are not easy places to break through. Compared with Europe and the United States, where the art market has matured, Asia is the best breakthrough. But for now, we still have to develop Xiangjiang first. Let more middle-class people know about art investment, and promote the concept of art investment from the rich to the middle class. In addition, we need to package and market the concept of art so that more people will like to accept art. Now is a good opportunity. Chen Lian has made such a big fuss recently, and the media in Hong Kong have been reporting on it for several days. Taking this opportunity to promote Inspire Art Space and introduce more art investment concepts, there should be considerable gains. Chen Lian sat nearby and listened to Jifa and Cheng Shifen each talk about how to hype the high returns on art investment, how to advocate that art is a compulsory course for the upper class, and that art collection represents tasteful class. Chen Lian really admires these two women. They are trying to fool the petty bourgeoisie. Cheng Shifen looked at Jifa and analyzed seriously, because we are about to return, the investment market in Xiangjiang is in chaos, and the property market is in chaos. Many people are selling their properties, and they have a lot of money in their hands with no place to invest. The stock market risks it's too big, we can take advantage of it and cut in. Jifa nodded seriously and said, I have many real cases here. Cases of investing in art and getting returns tenfold or even 100-fold. If you publicize it in the media, package and hype a few, it will be easy to attract customers. Yes, it is said to be art investment, but in fact it is still a commodity purchase and sale, and packaging and marketing are very important, Cheng Shifen said with a smile. Chen Lian's mouth twitched when he heard this. He couldn't help but turn his head and glance at Wang Zuxian, who had been silent and lowered his head to write and draw. He felt that he was still the kind-hearted Wang Xianxian. I guess I'm not interested in any of this, I'm just as bored as myself. So Chen Lian came close to Wang Zuxian to see what she was writing. Chen Lian took a closer look and sighed speechlessly. Wang Zuxian was in a daze. She was taking notes. She wrote down everything Cheng Shifen and Jifa said. Women are also very obsessed with making money, and maybe they want to do something to prove themselves. But this makes Chen Lian look very lazy and a pure fisherman. But the three women didn't think so. Whether this project can succeed depends on Chen Lian. Without an artist who is well known in the circle or well known outside the circle, it is difficult to attract attention and trust. Chen Lian is the signature of this project. Just like being a brand spokesperson, he uses Chen Lian's fame to gain the trust of others. After several women chatted all afternoon, they decided on a rough plan. Jifa looked at Chen Lian and asked, when will the works of artists from the mainland be delivered? We must seize the current popularity and get started as soon as possible. Chen Lian couldn't help but yawned and said, it's been healed a long time ago, but I only contacted more than 40 artists and got 2 to 3 works from them without paying them. Why should we pay money? We help them package, market, and sell the art for consignment, and we also charge their handling fees and share. There's no point in buying it ourselves. Jifa saw Chen Lian acting stupid again and said seriously, when did you see the landlord giving money to the tenants? It's you who are the black ones, Chen Lian said speechlessly, those artists are so poor, and you still want to exploit them. What are you talking about? This is to help them survive. However, we will not charge money in the early stage, but we will not give them money, Jifa explained and said to Chen Lian, forget it if you agree on the first batch. Buying it normally will also facilitate our promotion, but it will be me who communicates with these artists in the future. Cheng Shifen smiled and said, okay, the most important thing now is to transport the artworks to Xiangjiang first, and then we can start the subsequent plans. Chen Lian glanced at them. Jifa and Cheng Shifen were now businessmen. However, Chen Lian still agreed to the plan. This thing is originally done as a business, and art also needs business operations, otherwise so many artists will really starve to death or be forced to change careers. After agreeing on the subsequent plan, Wang Zuxian, who had been silent and studying hard, excitedly picked up the cold coffee and said, "Then I wish us success. Cheers." Although coffee is not alcohol, it still makes people feel energetic. The future is promising. Fringe artists in the entertainment industry. Author, Chizu de Xiaomao. Chapter 274. Chapter 265-263. Middle-class respectability. Winter in Xiangjiang is really comfortable. There is no raging cold wind, and there is no need to wear heavy coats or down jackets. Chen Lian really wanted to spend the winter here, but now he had to go back to the capital. Also traveling with him was Ji Fa. The two of them were going back to the capital to bring the artists Chen Lian had communicated with before to Xiangjiang. By the way, they will bring all their works to Xiangjiang, and the art space will open early. Chen Lian felt that this was quite hasty. The original plan was to wait until 1997 to start, but now something unexpected happened and the timing was better. On the plane back to the capital from Shenzhen, Chen Lian flipped through the plan Jifa and Cheng Shifen made overnight. It is really a perfect fit for these two women to work together. The plan is perfect, but whether it can succeed depends on the actual implementation. Chen Lian and Jifa returned to the capital to contact artists in the mainland, while Cheng Shifen began to build momentum in Xiangjiang. Along with Cheng Shifen is Wang Zuxian, who only knows how to speculate in real estate. She is now worried about whether Cheng Shifen's publicity plan will be effective. "Sister Shifen, did you really take the initiative to break the news? Will they deny it?" Wang Zuxian asked worriedly. Cheng Shifen said with a smile, "It is a fact that Lu wants to collect Chen Lian's works. It is also a fact that he invested so much art and made more than 10 times the profit. Why doesn't he admit it?" After Cheng Shifen finished speaking, she stopped explaining so much to Wang Zuxian and directly began to contact the media to speculate on art investments. Both financial magazines and gossip magazines were simultaneously published, and Chen Lian was introduced in detail in the gossip magazines. The highlight is that Chen Lian's artwork has increased from $5,000 to $3 million in 2 years. A 600-fold increase. What an exaggeration. More serious financial magazines are bragging about the booming art investment market. Many foreign wealthy people are investing in art. Hong Kong's most talked about tycoon Lu also made hundreds of millions of Hong Kong dollars through art investment. Some celebrity magazines have also begun to brag about which wealthy families actively collect art. Art is also a required course and threshold for social interaction in the upper class. Most of these examples are special cases among special cases, but they are enough gimmicks that they are still very effective under the overwhelming publicity. At the very least, many middle-class people who aspire to join the upper class are very excited. Most of the middle-class people themselves are highly educated elites and are no strangers to art. The most important thing is that the middle class may be the most confident group of people in society. Most of them rely on themselves to become middle class, and they have a spirit of self-importance in them. Such people are very interested in art investment. First, they need to distinguish themselves from ordinary people, and second, they need to demonstrate their class nature through certain forms and means. The cost of buying a house or a car is too high, and the savings cannot be used as talking points every day. There are not many choices other than luxury goods that can be used as daily show-offs. However, luxury goods do not maintain their value or even begin to depreciate the moment they are purchased. Moreover, if you talk too much, you will be misunderstood as a nouveau riche. Compared with works of art, it is much better, the price is not very expensive, it has investment properties, and it will be very stylish and connotative as a conversation piece. For such an elite, this last point is important. In British terms, this is middle-class respectability. At a certain stage, people will use various things to maintain the dignity of their class. This kind of propaganda is persistent and appears silently in various places where the middle class has access. The vocabulary of art investment will continue to appear in the TV programs that the middle class likes, the magazines they like to read, and the places they frequent in the future. There will also be many people who will deliberately start talking about this topic in circles. Chen Lian didn't know whether such publicity would be effective, but he thought it should be able to attract some people. After getting off the plane in Beijing, Chen Lian and Ji Fa got busy. Ji Fa was responsible for collecting the artworks, while Chen Lian was responsible for talking about art and the survival issues of artists with these artists. Artists who are struggling to make ends meet say they don't love money but love art, but who would refuse to improve their lives. No one wants to live in a dilapidated courtyard all the time and have no meal at all. They are happy to accept someone willing to pay for their art, and the price is not low. Buying a painting for a few thousand yuan is not cheap anymore. It is already an entire year's income for most people in the mainland. Of course, Ji Fa and Chen Lian, who are already somewhat famous or have relatively good works, will not be stingy and will always give the highest price. They are not capitalists, they are essentially artists, so they will naturally help them within their capabilities. In Chen Lian's studio, he had just sent away several painters who had just graduated from college. He turned around and saw Bai Qing sitting in the yard basking in the sun. He walked over and sat next to her and sighed tiredly. Bai Qing glanced at him and said, "You are doing a good thing. If I could have encountered such a thing, maybe I wouldn't be unable to afford a new canvas." Chen Lian smiled and said, "Then you won't be able to meet me. Now that I think about it, it's better not to have met you." Bai Qing's eyes fell on Chen Lian's fair and slender fingers, and he suddenly smiled and said, "If we hadn't met at the beginning, you might still be just an actor now, not great artist." "What a great artist, I have always felt that I was lucky." Chen Lian looked at the clear sky and really felt that he was able to achieve his current achievements because of luck. God gave me a chance to start over again, and even let me slip through the cracks of my fingers. Excessive modesty is not a good thing, Bai Qing said with a smile. Chen Lian laughed and stood up and said, "Then I will be more narcissistic. I am a great artist." Looking at the energetic Chen Lian, Bai Qing had a bright smile on her face. She liked him like this, just like when she first taught him to draw. He was just a novice but could always give herself so many surprises. But those memories feel very far away, and the only thing that is fresh is the man in front of me with a charming smile. Chen Lian stretched and turned to look at Bai Qing and said, "I want to take your painting with me and put it on display in Xiangjiang. Whatever you want, just don't sell it to me. Ordinary people can't afford it. When I offered it to an American home for more than 1 million yuan, you didn't even sell it." Ji Fa is still feeling sorry for the share he didn't get. Bai Qing and Chen Lian couldn't help laughing when they said this. "Are you talking bad about me? I collected 15 pieces of art today, and I conservatively estimate that I can earn more than $50,000. Ji Fa's voice suddenly came from the yard. Chen Lian and Bai Qing both turned their heads and looked at the fiery Ji Fa. Then they looked at each other and couldn't help but laugh. "Why are you laughing?" Ji Fa looked at Chen Lian and Bai Qing with confusion. Chen Lian stopped laughing and shook his head and said, "It's nothing. I praise you for your ability." "You lied to me." Ji Fa came up to Chen Lian and looked into his eyes and said, "You must have said bad things about me. Hurry up and confess." Ji Fa started playing with Chen Lian as he spoke, walking back and forth in the yard like two immature children. Bai Qing sat next to him and watched the show with a smile, but he didn't laugh for a while before Ji Fa accurately attacked him. Bai Qing immediately blushed and looked at Ji Fa's hand, turned to look at Chen Lian and said, "Ji Fa, eat my tofu. You take revenge on me." Chen Lian rubbed his nose and said, "This is not suitable for me." "That's right," Ji Fa hugged Bai Qing with a smile and said, "Don't even think about touching me, stinky man." "Chen Lian, that's not what you said in Xiangjiang 2 days ago." "Woman, why are you so disrespectful?" After Chen Lian and Ji Fa returned to Xiangjiang with many works of art, Ji Fa's face changed again. As soon as they arrived at the hotel, he dragged Chen Lian into the room and refused to come out. Chen Lian, who was pushed all the way to the sofa, looked at Ji Fa and asked, "Didn't you say I'm a stinky man?" Ji Fa, who had just sat on Chen Lian's lap, paused and looked at him and said, "Do you want Bo Qing to know about our relationship?" "Okay, but I'm still very angry." "You can figure it out yourself," Chen Lian said with his hands behind his head. "Stingy man." Chen Lian and Ji Fa returned to Xiangjiang at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and it was not until 6 o'clock in the evening that they came down to the art space to receive the artworks brought from the mainland after being urged by the logistics driver's phone call. More than 400 pieces of art were inspected one by one, and it took more than 8 o'clock to get them all done. Looking at the room full of art, Chen Lian felt like he was swimming in an ocean of art. Ji Fa looked at the receipt sheet in his hand a little tiredly, and breathed a sigh of relief and said, "When everything is laid out tomorrow, we can start the next step of the plan." "How are you going to promote it?" Chen Lian looked at Ji Fa and asked curiously. Ji Fa put away the list and said, "Please invite some celebrities to support me. Bernard is planning to go to Japan recently, and I am going to invite him to come and have a look. There are also some art collectors who are interested in you. In addition, we will also invite some wealthy celebrities and stars in Hong Kong." Ji Fa sighed and said, "It's a pity that we are in a hurry this time. I don't know how many people can be invited over. Do your best to obey fate. We've already spent tens of millions before we even start. Be careful of losing money." Chen Lian felt that the momentum was a bit too big and the initial investment was too much. Ji Fa shook his head and said, "Most of the tens of millions are fixed assets. Even if it fails, there will be no loss. At most, the publicity fee will not be earned back." Chen Lian shrugged his shoulders and said, "Well, I hope it will be successful. This combination of punches should be effective." "Of course it won't be bad," Ji Fa said confidently. In the next few days, Ji Fa and Cheng Shifen began to invite people from all walks of life through their own connections. Chen Lian arranges the artworks in the art space. It cannot really be like a supermarket and just find a shelf to put the artworks on. The pork seller also knows how to turn on a red light. Chen Lian carefully arranged the works according to the characteristics of each work of art, and also consistent with the positioning and style of the art space. Some artworks themselves have certain flaws, which require certain arrangements to make up for them. Just like an art exhibition needs a curator, works of art also need later installations to embellish them. Chen Lian has been busy for several days, staying in the art space almost every day, just like a decoration worker, looking disgraced every day. Wang Zuxian, who is busy cooperating with Cheng Shifen and Ji Fa to prepare for the opening, will come over to deliver food to Chen Lian whenever he has time. However, he does not have much time and can only spare more than an hour a day to visit him. Compared to the busy Wang Zuxian, the princess has a lot of time. In addition to playing mahjong every day, she also sneaks over to see Chen Lian. She seems to enjoy this sneaky feeling. Chen Lian also likes this feeling, but he doesn't dare to indulge too much. Otherwise, if the inspiration is drained, he will not be able to arrange so many works of art. Chen Lian, who had been busy for several days, finally breathed a sigh of relief after placing the last work in the right place. It's time to take a good rest. After looking around for a week, Chen Lian took out his camera and took photos of each work. These must be recorded, and the photos must be taken back to show to the authors of these works. After using up the inventory of more than a dozen film rolls, Chen Lian was about to go out to buy film when he met Li Lijhen at the door holding a painting. Chen Lian looked at the tightly wrapped painting in Li Lijhen's hand, stopped and asked, "Have you finished the painting?" "Well, let's bring it over and show it to you." Li Lijhen was a little nervous. She raised the hand holding the painting several times and put it down again. Seeing her anxious look, Chen Lian was not in a hurry. He raised the camera in his hand and said, "Then you go inside and wait for me. I'm in a hurry to buy film and take pictures of the newly decorated space. I'll be back later. Enjoy your paintings." "Okay." As soon as Li Lijhen responded, Chen Lian ran away, leaving her with no chance to say the next words. "I still want to be with you," Li Lijhen couldn't help but muttered as she looked at Chen Lian running away. "But that's okay. Li Lijhen is really unsure about her works. She doesn't know how her paintings will be evaluated in the eyes of professionals." Li Lijhen walked into the art space holding her painting. This place was different from the last time she came here. The light suddenly dimmed as soon as I entered the door. The light in the hundreds of square meters of the front hall was extremely dim, with only a few small spotlights able to illuminate it. Oil paintings of different sizes hang on the dark blue walls, and there are several extremely weird installations in the corners of the front hall. The styles of these artworks are all very different. The installation art looks a bit inexplicable, and the overall tone of the oil paintings is also very depressing. The colors are gorgeous but have a sense of weirdness. Most of the themes of these works have a primitive and rough aesthetic, very much like the totems and sacrificial objects of primitive tribes. Li Lijhen looked at the artworks and couldn't tell for a moment whether it was the environment that made her feel, or the artworks that made her feel depressing and weird. But when she walked through the front hall and turned a corner, she felt that her field of vision broadened instantly. The long corridor was brightly lit and full of technology. The streamlined light strips on the white walls made streams of light, and the walls were inlaid with a series of lights. Each oil painting and photographic work is like the window of a spaceship. Li really felt amazing, as if she suddenly came from primitive society to the future world, without any excess. She felt like a monkey who was suddenly caught on an alien spaceship. This strong abruptness and contrast made Li's heart beat faster and her brain became more active. Passing through the corridor, her eyes scanned over the artworks one after another. Before she had time to memorize the paintings, the scene in front of her suddenly changed again. This time, the visual impact on her was even stronger. She stood there in a daze for several seconds. These are all arranged by Chen Lian. How did he think of it? Li Lijhen suddenly clenched the oil painting in her hand, feeling like she wanted to run away. It was better not to let Chen Lian see her level. It's really a bit embarrassing. Fringe artists in the entertainment industry. Author, Chizu de Xiaomao. Chapter 275. Chapter 266-264. Tricks of artistic photography. The dark red light shines on the huge heart hanging in the air, making it particularly dazzling. It seems that you can feel the beating sound coming from the still heart. Li Lijhen did not expect that Chen Lian's work would be even more shocking under the influence of lighting, and it would be extremely harmonious with the entire space. The large and small artworks in the entire exhibition hall are like stars surrounding the moon, and countless small red chains link each artwork to the heart. Just like the huge red heart and these works of art supply blood to each other, they are connected as one and cannot be separated from each other. Li Lijhen thought of the artists who said on the first day of the exhibition that Chen Lian's works had political connotations and were red power from the mainland. She suddenly felt that what they said seemed right. These works of art from the mainland plus Chen Lian's work are the red wave. However, this kind of installation really made her scalp feel numb. In the past, she only loved painting and had little knowledge of art. This kind of arrangement made her realize the beauty of art very clearly for the first time. The concept of the word art is constantly changing, and there is no universally agreed upon definition, but there is one thing that everyone agrees on. That is, all art categories are within the scope of beauty. Just like how people often praise a good-looking girl and say she is as beautiful as a work of art. The most common understanding of art is beauty, and beauty can be felt most intuitively in works of art. Regardless of whether you understand art or not, when you see a painting, you can give a basic evaluation, whether it looks good or not. People with a certain understanding of art can feel the emotional and spiritual value beyond the beauty of a work of art. Li Lijhen now feels very strong emotions and mental shock, and her admiration for Chen Lian in her heart becomes even more obvious. She couldn't tell clearly what she felt about Chen Lian, whether it was admiration as an art lover or a woman's admiration for a man. But this does not affect her expectation of more stories with Chen Lian, no matter what kind of story she is looking forward to. Chen Lian, who had bought the film outside, had just returned when he saw Li Lijhen standing there in a daze. Chen Lian suddenly thought and picked up the camera to take a picture. The moment the shutter sounded, Li Lijhen turned around and discovered Chen Lian. The moment Li Lijhen turned around, her hair swayed, looking particularly beautiful under the red light. Chen Lian held up the camera and pressed the shutter again. When she discovered that Chen Lian was taking pictures of herself, Li Lijhen's eyes flashed with panic subconsciously, but her body instinctively put on a beautiful pose. Chen Lian, who was about to put down the camera, raised his eyebrows slightly, held up the camera and took 2 more pictures. He also took the initiative to walk over and said, "Change the position again." Li Lijhen was stunned for a moment, then she changed her posture obediently, placed the oil painting on the ground, held the frame with both hands and leaned down slightly. In this pose, Li Lijhen fully displayed her sexy curves. Chen Lian couldn't help but change the angle and lower the camera to take a picture of her long legs. "It's very beautiful, look back at me," Chen Lian said while taking pictures. After hearing this, Li Lijhen turned her head and looked at the camera very charmingly, and the charming moment in her eyes was instantly captured by Chen Lian. After Chen Lian took a satisfactory photo, he stood up and looked at Li Lijhen and said, "It's been a long time since I took such a satisfactory photo." Li Lijhen looked at Chen Lian with a smile, feeling that her posture just now was a bit too bold. "I'll wash it out and give it to you later." After Chen Lian finished speaking, he looked at the painting in Li Lijhen's hand and said, "What did you paint this time?" A man. Li Lijhen looked into Chen Lian's eyes and said, "I wanted to paint landscapes at first, but when I started painting, you always appeared in my mind." Chen Lian was a little surprised and pointed at himself and asked, "Did you draw me?" "Yes, it's just that the painting is not good." After speaking, Li Lijhen mustered up the courage to tear open the paper wrapping the painting, handed it to Chen Lian and said, "Don't blame me for not painting well." Chen Lian took the painting with some surprise, looked at her and said, "No, you are the second person to paint me, it will only surprise me." After Chen Lian finished speaking, he took the painting and looked at it carefully. What was painted on it was the scene when he pulled the chain that day. It looked pretty good at first glance. It's just that if you look carefully, the color processing is not very clean, the technique and brush strokes are also a bit sluggish, and the shape is average. At most, Li's painting is only at the level of a freshman or sophomore at a domestic art academy. I don't know how long she has been learning to paint. If she has just started painting, she still has some talent. Li Lijhen, who was facing Chen Lian, looked at him and kept silent, and asked with some anxiety, "Is the painting bad?" "No, the painting is good, but a little immature." Chen Lian put down the painting and looked at her and said, "Can you give it to me? I want to collect it." "Of course. As long as you like it," Li Lijhen said excitedly, feeling that she was recognized by Chen Lian. Chen Lian put down the painting in his hand, looked at her and said, "How long have you been learning to paint?" Li Lijhen replied, "It's been several years, but I haven't had time to study seriously. I only had time to paint this year when I was half rested." Chen Lian nodded when he heard this and said, "Not bad, I might be able to become a female painter in the future. What I never thought about was to treat it as a hobby. Li Lichhen was not very confident in herself. There were so many paintings in the entire exhibition hall, and none of them were better than her. Chen Lian didn't say anything more. Taking Li Lichhen's words, he turned around and looked around, then found a free place and hung it up. Maybe someone would take a fancy to this painting. Chen Lian didn't sign the painting specifically, so it just hung there all alone. This may be a very interesting experiment. I wonder if someone will mistakenly think that this is a self-portrait painted by him, and then sell it at a high price. If that were the case, it would definitely be very interesting. Chen Lian wondered with some evil humor whether he would charge a sky-high price. When Li Lichhen saw her paintings hanging up, she was a little worried about whether she would be scolded if others saw them. After all, the works here were better than her own. Chen Lian turned around and took pictures of the artworks with his camera and said, "Don't worry, you can come and take a look when it is officially open to the public in a few days. Someone will definitely praise the paintings, and maybe someone will pay a high price to buy them." "No way," Li Lichhen asked with some disbelief. Chen Lian smiled and said, "You will know when you see it. Art is a very vague and paradoxical thing." Li really didn't quite understand what Chen Lian meant by paradox, but she was curious whether things would be as Chen Lian said. "When will it open to the public?" "Next Monday, come and take a look if you have time. There are still 4 days until next Monday." Li Lichhen comes here almost every afternoon to chat with Chen Lian about the paintings here. Sometimes she even acts as a model for Chen Lian to take some photos. But after taking a few shots, the scale of the shots became larger and larger. Li Lichhen was not shy, she just marveled at why Chen Lian's photos of her looked so good. It's not like she has never taken sexy photos before, but the effects of those photos are not as sexy as those taken by Chen Lian. In the quiet exhibition hall, the half-covered Li Lichhen leaned against the wall under the red light, and white smoke filled the air around her, making her look particularly mysterious. Chen Lian held a camera in one hand and a cane he got from nowhere in the other hand to lift Li Lichhen's chin, and then held the camera in one hand to record the scene. The straight cane forms a very straight and hard line in the painting, forming a strong contrast with Li Lichhen's soft and sexy curves. The whole scene looks particularly dangerous and mysterious in the red light and smoke. Li Lichhen felt the cold touch of the cane on her chin. The pores on her delicate skin shrank slightly, and her heartbeat couldn't help but accelerate. Especially when she opened her eyes and saw the cane being held in Chen Lian's hand, she couldn't help but feel waves in her heart. In Li Lichhen's eyes, the cane is like an extension of Chen Lian's body's masculine characteristics, representing the strength of men. Li Lichhen couldn't help but twist her legs, and looked at Chen Lian, who was trying to take back the cane with half-squinted eyes. She couldn't help but reach out and grab the cold and hard cane. Chen Lian paused for a moment, and when he saw Li Lichhen's eyes filled with water, he stopped retracting his cane and stretched it out again. The metal cane gently slid over Li Lichhen's skin, and the cool yet hard touch made Li Lichhen couldn't help but squint her eyes and groan. Chen Lian walked downstream with his cane, and finally placed it lightly on the edge of the grass. Li Lichhen opened her eyes and couldn't help but stand on her tiptoes. The original inch difference was easily filled up. Li Lichhen grasped the metal cane with both hands and exerted slight force, and the joints on her fingers turned slightly white. Chen Lian followed Li Lichhen's movements and moved the cane downward, but Li Lichhen always wanted to compete with him for ownership of the cane. Chen Lian had no choice but to snatch it back again, and the cane was being fought over and over again. The cane became wet with every back and forth. In the end, Li, who couldn't catch Chen Lian, lost her strength. With a cry, she let go of her cane and surrendered. As the loser, Li Lichhen naturally wanted to offer the gift of surrender and sincerity, and Chen Lian also wanted to personally take away his spoils. Chen Lian walked up to Li Lichhen, looked at her condescendingly, snorted softly, and touched Li Lichhen's chin with the cane in his hand. Li Lijhen understood immediately, took the initiative to hold the cane and stroked it gently, and then opened her mouth under Chen Lian's gaze. Life is always full of unexpected surprises, and Chen Lian never expected that one day he would be able to cooperate with Li Lijhen. Although it was not a R-rated movie, it was the same for R-rated photos. Rounding it up also unlocks a new achievement. I just don't know if I will have the opportunity to collaborate with Qiu Shahen or Shu Qi in the future. Let's talk about the future later. Chen Lian is still busy with the art space, which will be officially open to the public today. Many celebrities and well-known artists will come, so Chen Lian needs to be well prepared. Wearing a suit and leather shoes is inevitable, but no matter how Chen Lian looks at himself in the mirror, he doesn't look like an artist, but more like a businessman. Wang Zuxian adjusted Chen Lian's tie and said with a smile, "You look best in a suit." "But I don't like it very much." Chen Lian moved his arms and felt that the suit was a bit tight. "Wear it even if you don't like it. Don't be petty on such an important occasion today." Wang Zuxian gently smoothed Chen Lian's tie, looked at him and said, "Don't let all your previous hard work go to waste." Chen Lian nodded slightly and said, "I know, I hope I can succeed today." "I will definitely do it." Wang Zuxian looked at Chen Lian's handsome appearance and said, "I just don't know how many women you will attract today." Wang Zuxian felt a little worried when she thought about inviting so many celebrities here today. This man was becoming more and more attractive, and she didn't know how many women would be interested in him. Chen Lian suddenly remembered something, looked at Wang Zuxian and asked, "By the way, I haven't been to my brother's house these days. Did he take the role of Wang Jiai in the end?" Hearing Chen Lian's question, Wang Zuxian laughed out loud, looked at him and said, "You can ask him yourself, haha." Chen Lian saw Wang Zuxian smiling so happily, and his curiosity aroused in his heart, thinking that he would ask what was going on when he saw her later. Half an hour later, Chen Lian arrived at the art space. The entrance of the art space was empty. There were no flower baskets and no red carpet. It didn't look like an official opening day at all. Someone originally planned to give it as a gift, but Chen Lian and Ji Fa declined. After all, they were engaged in art, and those things were too tacky. It's not like a small shop is opening, so why should we set off firecrackers? There was less than an hour before the official start, and someone had already arrived early. Chen Lian couldn't help but admire the short figure when he looked at it. Ito Muragi is so persistent. He came over as soon as he made a phone call, and he even arrived early. Chen Lian was a little embarrassed to continue to refuse such a sincere invitation to him to go to the Tokyo Art Festival. Ito Muragi brought a lot of money this time, if for no other reason than to support more Chinese artists. For the friendship between China and Japan. For Chen Lian. After Chen Lian went over to chat with Ito Muragi for a few words, other people came over one after another. Some were citizens of Xiangjiang who had seen the promotion, and there were also many artists from the mainland who had organized groups. The celebrities invited by Jifa and Cheng Shifen have not arrived yet, and they all came here at random. However, many reporters came, and Chen Lian also saw old acquaintances, reporters from several mainland art magazines. Chen Lian had even been interviewed by them. But there is not much time now, and Chen Lian has no time to greet them. He has to go out to pick up the biggest person today. LV boss, a real rich and famous person. The moment Bernard appeared here, he attracted the attention of many reporters, but they did not know who this person was. This boss was usually too low-key and rarely showed his face in public. However, some sharp-eyed reporters recognized him and called out his name in surprise. The reporters who heard him immediately became excited, and the flashlights of their cameras immediately flashed. This is big news. Such rich people came here to support Chen Lian. Many reporters in Xiangjiang originally came here for the celebrities, but now they don't care. Celebrities are nothing in front of such a rich man. Thinking about it this way, he is still an awesome artist. He knows all such rich people. He has no chance to meet these celebrities in Xiangjiang, let alone come to support him in person. There's something special about this Chen Lian. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Fringe artists in the entertainment industry. Author, Chizu de Xiaomao. Chapter 276. Chapter 267-265. Little Jew, if she can do it, so can I. My friend, long time no see. At the door of the art space, Bernard looked at Chen Lian and extended his hand enthusiastically, and Chen Lian also went up to greet him warmly. This is my financial sponsor, so I must treat him with courtesy no matter what. Among all the people who came today, only Bernard was worthy of Chen Lian's initiative, not to please but to thank him for his support. Bernard's wealth is not enough for Chen Lian to take seriously. Sooner or later, he will have that much money, but Chen Lian attaches great importance to his influence. This is not the influence that ordinary rich people can have. The influence of so many luxury brands owned by Bernard in the fashion circle is unquestionable. Coupled with his status as the world's top art collector and a large French auction house, he is also very influential in the art world. Chen Lian also hopes to use his influence to successfully promote his art space. The scene of Chen Lian and Bernard shaking hands and embracing was clearly captured by reporters, and it will probably be used as the headline tomorrow. After welcoming Bernard in and chatting for a few more words, Jifa took the initiative to take over Chen Lian's class and started chatting with him. After all, Chen Lian was the protagonist today. He couldn't stay with Bernard all the time and he had to receive other people who came to support him. After Bernard arrived, others also arrived one after another, including some wealthy local businessmen in Xiangjiang and collectors such as De Lu who had previously wanted to collect Chen Lian's works. It was the first time that Chen Lian and De Lu met, but De Lu seemed to have known him for a long time, and it felt like he had met a close friend. I just like artists like you. Haha, you are so romantic and talented. I'll just think you're complimenting me, Chen Lian said helplessly. There was no need to say the last sentence. Who can compare with you when it comes to romance? Lu didn't care about Chen Lian's reaction, but asked directly, are you really not going to sell that work? I can offer you 15 million Hong Kong dollars. Not for sale. Chen Lian turned to look at Bernard and said to Lu, he just offered 2.5 million US dollars and I'm not even tempted. I'm not short of money. De Lu. The price he paid for the sentiment was still low, but when he saw Chen Lian like this, he really had no intention of selling it, so he simply stopped asking. If yours doesn't sell, other works of art will definitely not sell. I don't plan to leave empty-handed when I come here this time, De Lu said with a smile. Chen Lian said with a smile, I hope you can buy a few more pieces to support the development of mainland art. Haha. I'm not just investing to support the development of art. De Lu laughed, chatted with Chen Lian for a few more words, and then went in. Cheng Shifen, who had been by Chen Lian's side, looked at Liu's back and said, he looks quite similar to you. He will have another girlfriend in a few months. Chen Lian couldn't help but rolled his eyes at Cheng Shifen and said, I don't have a girlfriend. Well, because you are more shameless than him. Chen Lian was too lazy to tell Cheng Shifen, why was he so shameless? We were all friends, so why should we add gender in front of friends? We couldn't emphasize gender, it was discrimination. After Lu and his group entered, the celebrities invited by Cheng Shifen to support them also came one after another. Zhang Suiyu, Cheng Shifen's artist, also came over. This was the first time Chen Lian saw him in person, but looking at his face, Chen Lian always thought of the emoticon that became popular later. I pissed you off. Chen Lian tried hard to control his expression. After greeting Zhang Suiyu and waiting for him to go in, he turned to Cheng Shifen and said, Sister Shifen, did he sign a film and television contract with you? You shouldn't have let him go to Carmen Mongkok in the first place. Cheng Shifen looked at Chen Lian with a strange smile and said, I only signed his contract as a singer. I am not in charge of the movie. The movie Carmen in Mongkok is very good. It's indeed good. It has contributed to the source of all evil. Chen Lian couldn't help laughing, but when he saw a woman walking over, he immediately stopped smiling. The head of the Jade Girl is actually here too. The little Jew is more beautiful in real life than on TV. Chen Lian asked in a low voice next to Cheng Shifen, Sister Shifen, how many people did you invite? Why are Zhou women here? Oh, she came here by herself, and she also likes to draw. Cheng Shifen took a look and explained. Chen Lian looked at Zhou women who was walking over and asked curiously, is she in love with that good-for-nothing second son of the Ni family now? Who knows the specific situation? There have been so many separations and reunions, and there was a lot of fuss before, but I heard that they haven't gotten back together yet. After Cheng Shifen finished speaking, she turned to look at Chen Lian and said, this woman is not clear-headed, don't provoke it. She is really not clear-headed. She can tolerate that playboy from the Ni family. She really can't understand. Chen Lian felt that Zhou women's eyesight must not be very good, and he didn't know what to think. However, after seeing Zhou women approaching, Chen Lian and Cheng Shifen stopped gossiping. Cheng Shifen took the initiative to step forward and greet Zhou women, as if she didn't want to give Chen Lian a chance to get closer. Chen Lian saw Cheng Shifen's thoughts and felt a little helpless. Since Cheng Shifen and Wang Zuxian worked together, she helped Wang Zuxian intentionally or unintentionally. However, Zhou women took the initiative to greet Chen Lian, looked at Chen Lian with a sweet smile and said, hello, I am Zhou women. Nice to meet you. I like your works very much. Chen Lian stretched out his hand to shake Zhou women's hand and said, thank you, I also like your songs and your role as the little Jew. Then which one is your favorite? Zhou women asked jokingly. Chen Lian thought for a moment and said, there is a song in the album you just released that I like very much. Maybe we should break up. Zhou women was stunned for a moment. She didn't expect Chen Lian to talk about this song. She originally thought that Chen Lian was joking about liking her own song. She would not be surprised if Chen Lian said that he liked his favorite song. After all, it was his most popular song. Zhu Shun, who was not a fan of his, should have heard of it, but he said such a song that was not very popular. But it made her feel that Chen Lian might really be her fan. Cheng Shifen could hear what Chen Lian meant when he said this song, and she couldn't help but roll her eyes at Zhou women while standing behind him. I didn't expect you to like this song. Zhou women looked at Chen Lian with some surprise, feeling that he didn't look like someone who was suffering from emotional problems. Chen Lian smiled without explaining. He looked at her and said, thank you for coming to support me. Several of my friends are here and I want to entertain you. Let's talk later. Chen Lian nodded at Zhou women, and then walked towards Zhang Guorong, who had just come over. He was now very concerned about whether Zhang Guorong would take the role in Happy Together. Why did you come here? You're the last one to come on such an important day for me. Chen Lian walked over and put his arm around Zhang Guorong's shoulders in an awkward manner and said. There were still dark circles on Leslie Chung's face, and he said to Chen Lian a little tiredly, I'm busy preparing for the concert at the end of the year. Preparing for a concert? Aren't you going to take the role of Wang Jiai? Chen Lian looked at Leslie Chung with some happiness. He really didn't want Leslie Chung to take the role. Zhang Guorong hesitated for a moment and slowly shook his head and said, I met him last night and I still plan to continue. Chen Lian frowned slightly after hearing this. He heard the meaning of Wang Zuxian's words in the morning and thought that Zhang Guorong was not ready to take it. Zhang Guorong glanced at Chen Shifen in the distance and explained, Shifen also persuaded me not to accept it, and also asked a feng shui master to tell my fortune, saying that Wang Jiai and I were not compatible, but I liked Wang Jiai's story very much, and I wanted to try it. Try. Chen Lian was silent for a moment, looked at him and said, "Okay, but remember to bring a doctor with you when you go filming. I will go over to see you if I have time." Zhang Guorong didn't understand why Chen Lian kept saying that he would bring a doctor, but he still nodded and said jokingly, "I am in such good health, nothing will happen to me." Chen Lian pouted and said, "I hope your body is as hard as your mouth. If I didn't want to film this kind of subject, I would be willing to work with him again and watch him in person. However, this subject is destined to prevent the two of them from cooperating in this drama." After chatting with Zhang Guorong for a few more words, Chen Lian became busy. There were too many people here today. The entire exhibition hall was full of people, but they were clearly divided into 4 groups. Jiffa and Bernard were among a group of foreign artists visiting various works of art. Hong Kong's wealthy businessmen and celebrities gathered together, artists from the mainland gathered together, and ordinary audiences wandered around in 2s and 3s. Chen Lian was very busy walking among 4 groups of people. However, there is still good news. Bernard took action and won 7 pieces of art, and Jiffa sold them at a high price. None of them were worth less than $20,000. It was a huge profit. Lu also took action and won 4 pieces, but the total cost was more than 300,000 Hong Kong dollars. This was the result of Cheng Shifen's continuous raising of prices. But what Lu and Chen Lian said is true. He buys art for investment. He controls the price very well and will not let Cheng Shifen and others raise the price just because he likes it. Regarding these rich people, Chen Lian's attitude is to earn as much as possible and not lower their consumption level. Rich people have to be a little bit cool. The only thing that surprised Chen Lian was Itamuriji. He and several Japanese collectors took a fancy to more than 30 works of art and spent a total of more than $300,000. These rich people are not the main target today. Chen Lian and the others are targeting the middle class. Don't underestimate the spending power of this group of people. It is true that a single person cannot compare with those rich people, but there are many of them. These middle-class people bought more than 100 pieces of art in total, spending a total of more than 4 million Hong Kong dollars. But what amused Chen Lian the most was not how many works of art were sold today, but Li Lijhan's painting. Chen Lian and Li Lijhan stood behind a circle of people and watched their comments on the painting. They thought it was so fun. Is this a self-portrait by Chen Lian? The brush strokes and techniques are very special, and there are abstract techniques in it, which vividly show his anger at that time. Yes, I think it's very good. I was at the scene that day and I could feel the anger in Chen Lian's heart at that time, which is the same as what this painting expresses. Although the painting looks very casual, this randomness makes the emotion express better. Li, who had been eavesdropping, felt embarrassed. Are these people talking about her paintings? I just wanted to draw something cool, something angry, something abstract. What on earth are you talking about? Chen Lian suppressed a smile and said, "Look, art is so weird." Li Lijhan looked at Chen Lian in confusion and asked, "Can't anyone tell that this is not your painting?" Of course, Chen Lian Nunuyo's lips gestured to Li Lijhan to look at a few artists who passed by and left after taking a look, and then said with a smile, "They can tell." Then why didn't they say it? Because they don't want to argue with a fool. Li really felt like she was a fool and couldn't understand what art was all about. What are you talking about? I see you have been chatting for a long time. Zhou Huimin suddenly approached Li Lijhan from behind and asked curiously. Li Lijhan glanced at Zhou Huimin, with a strange light flashing in her eyes, and said to her, "We are talking about that painting. What do you think of that painting?" Zhou Huimin leaned over and took a few glances, her brows furrowed together as she was a little unsure of what was going on. Originally, she was pretty sure that this was definitely not a painting by Chen Lian, but after listening to the compliments from people around her, she felt like she didn't understand. Her artistic attainments are much better than Li Lijhen's, and she later won a grand prize in an art exhibition. Although the gold content is not very high, it also shows that she has a good talent. Zhou Huimin was a little confused as to whether he should trust his own judgment or whether he should doubt his lack of vision. Chen Lian looked at Zhou Huimin's troubled expression and couldn't help but said to Li Lijhen, "You are bad enough, deliberately making your friends look embarrassed." "Not friends," Li Lijhen muttered, looked at Chen Lian and said, "I just want to see how she looks, not intentionally to make fun of her." Test Zhou Huimin's vision? Chen Lian felt that Li Li really thought too much, and her eyes were only normal when she looked at Li Ming. Zhou Huimin didn't have good vision and brains. Later, Zhou Huimin said that he and Ni Zhen became more and more convinced that they would be a pair for life. He said that Ni Zhen was a good boyfriend who was serious, careful, and responsible. When Chen Lian looked at such a stupid Zhou Huimin, he couldn't help but want to trick him, just like he wanted to give a stupid roe deer a stick when he saw it in the mountains of northeast China. After Zhou Huimin struggled for a while, he came back and said to Li Lijhen, "This painting should generally be painted by a beginner." Li Lijhen looked at Zhou Huimin in surprise and asked curiously, "How did you tell?" "Because the painting I drew when I first learned it was similar to it," Zhou Huimin said seriously, but his eyes were looking at Chen Lian as if waiting for him to give the final answer. Chen Lian smiled and said, "You are right, it is indeed a beginner's painting, but he is a very talented person." When Li Lijhen heard Chen Lian praising herself, she felt a little sweet in her heart. She looked at Zhou Huimin and whispered, "That's my painting. Don't tell those people." "Your painting?" Zhou Huimin was stunned for a moment, but felt very unhappy in his heart. "Can you hang your painting like this on display here? Then I can do it too." Zhou Huimin immediately turned his attention to Chen Lian and said seriously, "I think my paintings are also good. I have many paintings at home. Do you want to take a look?" Fringe artists in the entertainment industry. Author, Chizu de Xiaomao. Chapter 277. Chapter 268-266. Just a casual romance. The quiet clubhouse seems to be filled with the smell of money. If you calm down and listen carefully, you can hear the rustle of a pen scratching a check. Jifa was very excited now. She roughly calculated that the total number of artworks sold today was nearly 10 million Hong Kong dollars. Although the price is not as good as Chen Lian's current work of art, it is enough to make Jifa excited. Because the cost was so low, the price she recovered from more than 400 works of art was only more than 3 million. Now she has only sold less than half but has received nearly 3 times the return. Art investment is really like gold stocks. As long as there is good news, the price will continue to rise. And it will slowly increase as time goes by. No matter how you look at it, it is a business that is sure to make money without losing money. Especially the artworks in the hands of these art collectors will only increase the price with their own hype auctions. It is not a problem to double the price several times. The art trading market has been relatively stable in the past 2 years. As long as there is no large-scale financial crisis, the art trading market will not slump. Jifa is not only an art manager, but also a master of finance, and knows these things very well. Most people who understand the art trading market also understand this. It is difficult for the value of art to fall unless there is something wrong with the artist himself. After Jifa silently calculated in his mind, he felt that if he continued to roll out follow-up plans in the next few days, he should be able to continue to sell a large number of artworks. This made Jifa very excited and felt that Xiangjiang was really a good place. No, it should be said that Xiangjiang in 1996 was really a good place. If it were a little later or a little earlier, it wouldn't have the same effect. It's just a pity that Bernard is leaving. Jifa still wants him to collect a few more works of art. Bernard looked at Jifa and said, "You have found a very good business. This business cannot be done in France. It is just right here." "Jifa, You really have a business talent. Jifa agreed with Bernard's statement. There are too many artists in France, too many galleries, and the art trading market is too mature. The method they are playing now is not suitable for France, but it is just right for Hong Kong. However, in the face of Bernard's praise, Jifa did not take all the credit. He smiled and said, "This is not all my credit. The main reason is that Chen Lian wants to help China's young artists, and we also have a very good team." Bernard nodded and said, "Chinese artists are very good. We should see many Chinese artists in Venice next year. This is one of the reasons why so many people are willing to collect these works of art today. The Venice Art Biennale is the Olympics in the art world, and Chinese artists will officially compete next year. Just like joining the WTO, smart people can see that the prospects and potential of these artworks have also become greater. If you don't invest in the future at this time, you may not have such a good opportunity." Bernard glanced at the time and said to Jifa, "I have to leave, and I have to rush to Singapore. Let's have a good chat next time in Paris." "Of course, it's no problem." Jifa looked at Bernard and smiled, then turned to look at Chen Lian, who was chatting with two beauties, and couldn't help but have a headache. Bernard also turned his attention to Chen Lian and couldn't help but smile and said, "He is a very romantic man, as romantic as a French man. He should have been born in France. It's better not to, otherwise French women will go crazy." Jifa made a joke and walked towards Chen Lian. Chen Lian was discussing water-soluble oil painting materials with Zhou Huimin, who was recently learning gouache painting. Gouache painting is very good. It has the dual qualities of oil painting and watercolor. Just apply it thickly when painting. Chen Lian spoke seriously. He noticed Jifa coming over from the corner of his eye, and spoke faster to Zhou Huimin. "The watercolor effect will be heavier if it is mixed with more water, but it cannot achieve the reflection and transparency of watercolor. This needs to be done in the painting. It's time to feel it yourself." After hearing this, Zhou Huimin nodded seriously, looked at Chen Lian and asked, "Then how should we master the superposition of background colors? Maybe you can go home and try it yourself a few more times." Jifa's voice suddenly came from the side. Chen Lian turned to look at her helplessly, feeling that she was very resentful. However, he also noticed Bernard looking at him from a distance, and he probably guessed that Jifa was complaining. "I didn't go over to show off." Zhou Huimin was stunned for a moment, not knowing what this foreign woman who suddenly appeared meant, and looked at Chen Lian with confusion in his eyes. Chen Lian said to Zhou Huimin with some embarrassment, "This is my manager Jifa. She has other matters with me. I will discuss this issue with you next time. I have to leave first." In Zhou Huimin's somewhat disappointed eyes, Chen Lian and Jifa left, and Li Lijhen beside them couldn't help but chuckle. The leader of Jade Girl was also left out in the cold. Chen Lian and the French woman didn't even apologize to her. Li Lijhen looked at Zhou Huimin and said, "He is actually a very gentle and gentleman." Zhou Huimin turned to look at Li Lijhen and immediately understood the meaning of her words. Did she mean that she looked down on herself, so she was not a gentleman to him? Really? It seems you know him quite well. Zhou Huimin glanced at Li Lijhen meaningfully, then turned and left. Jifa looked back at Zhou Huimin and complained to Chen Lian, "What's the matter with you? When can't you pick up girls?" "Chen Lian, I'm talking about art. Not picking up girls." Jifa looked at the silent Chen Lian and said angrily, "Bernard can come to support you, you should take the initiative." "Okay, I will. Thank you very much," Chen Lian said obediently. Chen Lian was very grateful to Bernard, a big benefactor. He walked up to him and sincerely thanked him for coming to support him. Bernard said with a smile, "No need to thank me. I really enjoyed this trip to Xiangjiang. Your art space is the best I have ever seen, not to mention that I have collected a lot of interesting artworks. Thank you for your love." Chen Lian thanked Bernard with a smile and did not stop until he was sent to the car outside. There were still many reporters outside at this time. When they saw Chen Lian and Bernard appearing, they all gathered around and wanted to interview them. However, they were all blocked by Bernard's bodyguards, but there were still many reporters shouting at Bernard through the security guards. "Mr. Bernard, are you here specifically to support Chen Lian? What do you think of the art here?" Bernard glanced at the reporter and did not answer his question. Instead, he hugged Chen Lian gently and said, "I hope to see you in Paris next time." "Okay, I wish you a safe trip to Singapore." After Bernard got in the car and left, the bodyguards also withdrew, and the reporters who were stopped instantly surrounded Chen Lian. "Mr. Chen, what is your relationship with Bernard? Is it true that he has collected a lot of your works? I heard that he offered you $3 million for your Wave 2 work, right? How many pieces of art did Mr. Bernard buy this time?" The reporter's endless questions gave Chen Lian a headache. What was even more troublesome was that he was surrounded. If he had known, he would have arranged several bodyguards for himself. Chen Lian has always been very confident in his own skills, so he has never considered the issue of bodyguards. At this time, he suddenly thought that the role of bodyguards is not only to protect his personal safety, but also to protect himself from harassment. Chen Lian relied on his physical fitness to protect Jifa and squeezed out of the crowd without saying a word. He breathed a sigh of relief after entering the art space. The security guard at the door helped Chen Lian stop these reporters. They could come in to visit, but they could not bring cameras or video cameras. This point directly blocked 90% of reporters from outside. However, there were also reporters who worked in pairs and handed the equipment to one person and followed in. After getting rid of the reporters, Chen Lian felt much more relaxed. He looked at Jifa, who was arranging his clothes, and asked, "How many reporters are there arranged by you?" Jifa pulled up her hair and said calmly, "Half of it was arranged by us." Chen Lian. No wonder the questions asked are more targeted. It is estimated that tomorrow's newspapers will continue to trumpet that French rich people particularly like Chinese art and travel thousands of miles to visit it and spend a lot of money to collect it. Coupled with the local wealthy businessmen and celebrities in Xiangjiang, a lot of publicity should be able to fool many people into coming. Such is the celebrity effect. The public has a herd mentality, and don't stocks have experts on TV to promote them every day? After Chen Lian returned, he was busy welcoming the guests and was not free until the afternoon. After a busy day, Chen Lian, Jifa, and others ran to the lounge at the back to rest. Although everyone is very tired, they are very excited because today's income exceeds 10 million Hong Kong dollars, which is more than 1 million when converted into US dollars. Today is really a success, we should celebrate. Jifa looked at Chen Lian and the others and said. Jifa had no idea how many works of art she had handled that exceeded 5 million US dollars, but this over $1 million still made her very excited. Chen Lian also sat up from the sofa and looked at them and said, "It is indeed a success. This is all thanks to your planning. We should really celebrate tonight." Jifa, Cheng Shifen, Wang Zuxian, and the others looked at each other and laughed. Women are also ambitious. If they do something so well, the sense of accomplishment cannot be compared to the joy of buying a few bags. But they didn't want to celebrate now, so they took Chen Lian to discuss the next plan. Jifa said excitedly, "Now that the art is successful, the next step is to launch a few artists to raise the prices of their works, and then simultaneously launch a product plan. The so-called products are the development of peripheral souvenirs. Chen Lian was preparing these as early as last year. Chen Lian has designed many handicrafts and has also found many mainland artists to design them together. Cheng Shifen and Wang Zuxian have already found people to start mass production. But Chen Lian doesn't expect much money from these things. Just like the set of crystal cups and some decorative ornaments he designed, Cheng Shifen and Jifa plan to sell a set for tens of thousands of yuan. I don't know how many people will buy such expensive things. It is estimated that only the rich will buy these things, and the ordinary middle class will not buy these things. but Jifa had a different view on this. She said to Chen Lian enthusiastically, "There will definitely be many people buying it. This is an alternative luxury product, and it is designed by the artist himself. The materials are also expensive, costing tens of thousands of yuan. It's already very cheap." Chen Lian, Jifa is really evil, a standard capitalist. Chen Lian did not want to participate in these specific tasks. He was too lazy and could not do these detailed tasks well. He is only suitable for some creative work, and artists are not doers. In the next 2 days, Chen Lian stayed in the art space, while Jifa and Cheng Shifen went to implement the next plan. Li Lijhen often runs here these days. Every time she comes, she walks around before looking for Chen Lian. At first, Chen Lian thought she was going to see if his painting had been bought, but later he found out that she had never seen his painting before, so he was a little surprised as to what she was looking for. Li was really looking to see if Zhou women had come over. She had a very strange comparison with Zhou women. She was obviously set up by a beautiful woman to debut, but now she has become a lustful woman, and Zhou women is still the leader of the beautiful woman. Li Lijhen has always been inferior to Zhou women in her career. That day when she saw Chen Lian treating Zhou women so politely, she felt inexplicably better than Zhou women. This time, Li Lijhen, who had circled around again, came to Chen Lian and said happily, "Do you have time tonight? I would like to treat you to dinner." "Not tonight, I've already made an appointment." Chen Lian looked at Li Lijhen and asked curiously, "Why do you suddenly want to invite me to dinner?" Li Lijhen pursed her lips and looked at him and said, "It's nothing, I just want to treat you to dinner." Li really didn't dare to say the real reason. She really wanted to get married and have a child of her own this year, and Chen Lian was the best choice. It's just that she's not sure, to be precise, she's not sure at all, but it's her character to always give it a try. Chen Lian didn't see what Li was really thinking and thought it was just an ordinary dinner treat, so he said, "I'll treat you to a meal next time. I have an appointment tonight and I have to go back to the mainland tomorrow. I don't have time in the past few days. I made an appointment with Zhou women in the evening. I want to go to her house to look at the paintings. I will also teach Zhou women how to paint gouache." Chen Lian also plans to demonstrate it himself. "Go back to the mainland? Then when will you come back?" After asking, Li Lijhen realized a problem. Chen Lian was not from Xiangjiang. He would have to go back to the mainland anyway. She and him were only casually in love at most. Marriage and children are just my delusions, there will be no possibility of them. Thinking of this, Li Lijhen looked at Chen Lian's handsome face and immediately became active. She took his hand and walked to the lounge at the back. "Since it's a romantic relationship, let's show off a few more times until there's no more water. It doesn't matter if the sofa is wet, as long as the floor is wet." Fringe artists in the entertainment industry. Author, Chizu de Xiaomao. Chapter 278. Chapter 269-267. Hands-on teaching. In the clean and tidy lounge, the light is a bit dim, with only a small spotlight shining down from the ceiling, and the tapered aperture forming a funnel on the wall. Li Lijhen was sitting on the sofa, and the beautiful light from the spotlight shone on her body, forming a beautiful halo, which made her look particularly holy and pure. It's just that Li Lijhen's current dress has nothing to do with holiness. Chen Lian loved the contrast and conflict to death. After throwing away the clothes scattered on the ground, he held Li Lijhen's hand and discussed why they were used in religious paintings. The human body in its most primitive state is considered holy. After intense discussions, it often takes a moment of rest to regain one's thoughts. It took Chen Lian a while to recover from the excitement just now. Looking at Li Lijhen, who was still letting go, Chen Lian suddenly understood the meaning of a word. A bold girl. Li is really a bold girl, bold and unrestrained. However, this kind of boldness will only appear in certain situations. On weekdays, when Li Lijhen and Chen Lian are together, she still has an inexplicable sense of inferiority in her heart, and she is a little cautious in everything she says and does. Chen Lian likes Li Lijhen now more than usual. Maybe she is the real one at this time. After Chen Lian rested for a while, he stood up and found a dry towel to wipe off the water stains on Li Lijhen's body. After wiping, Chen Lian looked up at the clock on the wall. It was already 5:15, more than an hour before the time he and Zhou Huimin agreed on. There was still plenty of time, so Chen Lian didn't rush over. He looked at Li Lijhen, who had come back to her senses and had a warm relationship with her for a while, and said some things that should be said at this time. Li Lijhen, who had rested in Chen Lian's arms for a while, glanced at the time, sat up with her hands on her hands and said to him, "Don't you have an appointment with someone? Do you want to go there early?" "Well, the time is almost up." Chen Lian stood up and put on his clothes. He looked at the water stains on the floor and glanced at Li Lijhen again. Li Lijhen, who had just recovered, immediately blushed, and her legs that were put together couldn't help but twist back and forth. "Don't look at it. I'll clean it later. If you look at it again, I don't want you to leave." Li Lijhen looked up at Chen Lian, her eyes that had become cold became hot again. Chen Lian coughed and said, "Thank you for your hard work. Just pack up and leave. I'll contact you later when I have time." Yes, Li Lijhen's voice sounded a little disappointed, but she wasn't complaining at all. It was already a romantic relationship, so don't have so many extravagant hopes. Chen Lian and Li Lijhen chatted for a few more words before leaving the lounge and going straight to the address Zhou Huimin gave him. It was not a restaurant or a studio, but directly to her home. Chen Lian was actually a little surprised. He didn't expect to go directly to her house to look at paintings. He didn't know if he could have a meal. He was very hungry now and had just consumed a lot of energy. Zhou Huimin only started to be obsessed with painting this year, maybe because she has been retired from the industry and has nothing to do, but she is still very talented. Zhou Huimin's home is beautifully decorated, similar to the Italian minimalist style that became popular later. Many of the furniture have a sense of design and a warm feeling. Chen Lian liked this style very much, but his attention was attracted by Zhou Huimin at the moment. Under the simple and loose house clothes, her two slender straight legs are wearing long white cotton stockings. They are very beautiful under the light, playful yet sexy. Chen Lian wanted to take a few more glances, but that was too rude, so he had to look away. Zhou Huimin's hair was just casually pinned with hairpins, and there were long, slightly curly hair scattered on the side of her face. She looked particularly gentle and charming, just like the perfect wife imagined by most men. Zhou Huimin had put a little thought into her casual dress tonight. She had watched all Chen Lian's movies in the past 2 days, and she could read news about him in the newspaper every day, and she had feelings for Chen Lian. So a little understanding. For example, he likes the long-legged Wang Zuxian. For example, he played the leading actor who has a foot fetish in Nanjing Christ very well. These were enough for Zhou Huimin to see some of Chen Lian's quirks, otherwise he wouldn't be dressed like this today. Although Zhou Huimin is said to be the head of Jade Girl, that is just a packaged persona, and he is not stupid and sweet. Now looking at Chen Lian's reaction, Zhou Huimin raised a faint smile at the corner of her mouth. She liked Chen Lian's face and he was an artist. Although she had only seen him a few times, she was very fond of him. After all, he is even more beautiful than Li Ming. What woman wouldn't like it? Zhou Huimin looked at Chen Lian and asked, "Would you like something to eat?" "But I can only cook wonton noodles, so don't dislike it." Chen Lian smiled and said, "No, the wonton noodles are very good." More than 10 minutes later, the two of them were sitting at the dining table eating wonton noodles and chatting casually. After the two of them finished eating, they went to see Zhou Huimin's painting, an unfinished landscape gouache painting. The colors are used beautifully, and the overall color matching is harmonious, making it look very comfortable. But the only drawback was that the paint was too thick. Chen Lian picked up the spatula and gently touched the accumulated paint on the drawing paper. He found that it had not solidified yet, and he felt relieved. "Isn't the painting good?" Zhou Huimin looked at Chen Lian and asked. Chen Lian shook his head and said, "The painting is very good, but it is a little too thick and looks dull. It would be better to make it thinner. It would be better to add a little water when mixing colors." Zhou Huimin said with some annoyance, "What should I do now? The paint has already been applied so thickly. Just adjust it. Just scrape off the top layer of paint and paint again." Chen Lian shook the scraper in his hand and said, "Can I do it? Okay, I can't be too happy to have a master like you change my painting," Zhou Huimin said with a smile. His tone was a little playful, and his body was slightly closer to Chen Lian. The tip of Chen Lian's nose was suddenly lingered by a faint fragrance, and the scraper raised in his hand paused in mid-air. Chen Lian turned his head slightly and carefully altered her painting with a scraper, blocking out all the messy thoughts in his mind. Zhou Huimin glanced at Chen Lian's side face with some surprise. Seeing his focused look, he felt more favorable in his heart. After a while, Chen Lian scraped off a layer of heavy paint on the painting, put the scraper into a bucket and washed it before saying, "You can mix the colors again and I'll teach you how to paint." Zhou Huimin responded, picked up the palette and started to mix colors. However, he was a little unsure when adding water, so he turned to look at Chen Lian and asked, "How much water should you add to mix?" "Just a little bit, not too much, just moisten the paint," Chen Lian explained in detail. "The main reason for adding water is to increase the brightness of the color, and the color will be more vivid, but not too much, otherwise it would be too revealing." After hearing this, Zhou Huimin nodded, dipped a little water into his paintbrush and started to mix colors. Chen Lian sat nearby and watched quietly, suddenly thinking of the time when he and Bo Qing were learning to paint. At that time, he was just as proficient as Zhou Huimin. However, I am still more talented than Zhou Huimin. Most of the time, I am self-taught, and I can also draw inferences from one example. After Zhou Huimin quickly mixed the paint, he picked up the brush and started to paint again. Chen Lijing watched quietly for a while before he couldn't hold it in and said, "Can you change the brush to a smaller size? Do you have a fan-shaped brush with such strokes, more lightweight and breathable?" "No, did I paint too hard, but I can't control the strength of my brush strokes." Zhou Huimin looked at Chen Lian for help. Chen Lian frowned slightly. This was his first time teaching someone to draw. Unexpectedly, Zhou Huimin didn't even have a good foundation. However, she has a good sense of color and good modeling skills. She doesn't look like a complete novice. Chen Lian glanced at her suspiciously, then reached out to take the pen in her hand, gave her a demonstration and said, "Sweep it over, heavy on the front and light on the back. When you lift the pen, lift it up." Zhou Huimin held the palette and looked at Chen Lian without blinking. She felt that Chen Lian at this moment was exactly the same as the painter and artist she imagined. "What you drew is much prettier than what I drew." Zhou Huimin looked at the few strokes drawn by Chen Lian on the drawing paper, feeling that the flowers he drew with a few strokes were much more beautiful than what he had drawn, with a shy expression. A feeling of It was the first time that Zhou Huimin felt the gap between himself and professional painters so intuitively, and he felt a little disappointed in his heart. Chen Lian drew a few more strokes before returning the pen to Zhou Huimin and saying, "Come and try, just do what I just said." "Good." Zhou Huimin took a deep breath, picked up the brush and tried Chen Lian's technique several times. Her beautiful eyebrows couldn't help but wrinkle. "It seems like the painting is even worse." Chen Lian couldn't help but said, "Wrist, use the wrist to carry the animation pen. Don't use the sketch method. You can't draw with the big arm and the small arm." Zhou Huimin was stunned for a moment, tried to move his wrist, looked at Chen Lian and asked, "Is that so?" "No, that's it," Chen Lian said and raised his hand to hold Zhou Huimin's hand. The moment Chen Lian's warm palm grasped Zhou Huimin's, she shrank subconsciously, and the smooth back of her hand slid against Chen Lian's palm. The smooth touch made Chen Lian react. He let go of Zhou Huimin's hand and said, "I'm sorry, it's like this. When your wrist is down." Zhou Huimin couldn't help laughing when he saw Chen Lian retracting his hand and demonstrating seriously, his round eyes turning into crescents. As Li Lijhan said, "He is a gentleman." Zhou Huimin suddenly raised his wrist and put it in Chen Lian's hand and said, "I can't understand you like this. Please teach me step by step." Chen Lian turned to look at Zhou Huimin, then held her hand and said, "Okay." Under the warm light, the two people sat side by side, holding hands and holding paintbrushes in mid-air, practicing again and again. A warm and romantic atmosphere quietly filled the air. On the other side of the Xiangjiang River, Ji Fa was working overtime with Wang Zuxian and the others. After finishing the report at hand, Ji Fa couldn't help but stretched out and leaned next to Wang Zuxian, looked at her and asked, "Are you so if you don't go back later, will Chen Lian be anxious?" Wang Zuxian tilted her head and looked at Ji Fa and said, "He said he had an appointment tonight and might go back later. It shouldn't be over yet." Ji Fa suddenly thought of the woman who was chatting with Chen Lian that day, looked at Wang Zuxian and asked, "Who did he date?" "A painter, I don't know the details," Wang Zuxian said while sorting out the documents. "Lian didn't tell me that clearly, and I didn't ask." Ji Fa looked at Wang Zuxian and wondered if she didn't ask on purpose. With Chen Lian's romantic character, even if the painter he dated was probably a beauty, otherwise he wouldn't have dated her until the evening. She must have been the woman who was discussing watercolor with Chen Lian that day. She looked very innocent, the kind of woman Chen Lian liked. "Then have you ever thought about marrying him?" Ji Fa asked, gossiping again. Wang Zuxian was stunned for a while and then said, "I thought about it before, but I don't want to now." Ji Fa asked again, "Why?" A trace of helplessness flashed in Wang Zuxian's eyes, and then she said lightly, "There is no reason, I just don't want to." Seeing Wang Zuxian like this, Ji Fa couldn't help but sigh softly. People like Chen Lian are really the natural enemies of women. Fortunately, she never thought about getting involved emotionally, otherwise she would be like Wang Zuxian now. Ji Fa couldn't help but think of Bo Cheng. She seemed to have figured it out now and would no longer fantasize about catching Chen Lian one day. Men, unless you take the initiative to show it to him, don't try to capture his heart. More than an hour later, Wang Zuxian returned home. As soon as she opened the door and went in, she saw the lights on the second floor were on, and there was a box of packed raw porridge on the dining table on the first floor. From the bathroom on the second floor, there was the sound of gurgling water and Chen Lian humming, which sounded like he was in a good mood. A faint smile also appeared on Wang Zuxian's face. She felt that it was good now. Whether she got married or not was not that important. Apart from a piece of paper, it had no effect. After a while, Chen Lian's somewhat surprised voice came from the bathroom. "You're back, are you tired? Be careful and slip on the ground. I'm so tired today. I want to take a shower with you. I want you to give me a massage. Thank you for your hard work. I want the full set, my big star. It depends on your performance. If you perform well, I will reward you. Guaranteed to satisfy you. It's Monday, updated on time at 5:20, which represents my deep love for you. Remember to vote for me. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Fringe artists in the entertainment industry. Author, Chizu de Xiaomao. Chapter 279. Chapter 270-268. CCTV's bid for the king. The noisy pass is a bit crowded with people coming and going. Strange accents can be heard here, most of them speaking strange-sounding Cantonese. Nearing the 1997 pass, there were more tourists from the mainland and Xiangjiang. Chen Lian found it very interesting to listen to these strange Cantonese and the occasional dialect. People who come to Xiangjiang from the mainland try their best to speak Cantonese in order to integrate here. It seems that speaking Mandarin will be looked down upon, but in fact this is indeed the case. The Xiangjiang people who come from the mainland and speak a lot of Mandarin will pretend not to understand, and then yell at you in Cantonese with a contemptuous and condescending attitude. Even the waiters at the food stalls do the same. This is regional discrimination. It is very common and difficult to change. Don't think there is regional discrimination in Hong Kong. There is also regional discrimination in many places in the mainland. The second half of the 1990s was no longer as simple as the 1970s and 1980s. Few people were called comrades anymore. Workers and peasants suddenly lost their dominant position, and everything turned to money. Economically developed places will naturally look down on economically backward places. This is both normal and strange. After Chen Lian came out of the gate of Shenzhen, he saw Xiao Linmu who came to pick him up. This time he rushed back to the mainland temporarily just to meet with Xiao Linmu to discuss the next major events. The art space in Xiangjiang is Chen Lian's hobby and fun, and VCD is the foundation for Chen Lian to make money and support his family. Chen Lian still attaches great importance to the development of likes and VCD. After all, he has 2 children and will still have to earn money for milk powder in the future. When Xiao Linmu saw Chen Lian, he cared for a few words and then couldn't help but said, "You said you run out every day and don't know the Gu family. It's been a long time since you saw Xiaobao. I can still recognize you now when I go back. No. You, my uncle, have a lot to worry about. Can my daughter still recognize me?" Chen Lian raised his eyebrows, and he missed that pink little cotton-padded jacket a little bit. Xiao Linmu didn't say much, and rushed to Shenzhen airport with Chen Lian. After seeing a family of 4 with a son and a daughter at the airport, he couldn't help but said to Chen Lian, "Ms. Chen is about to give birth, she's about to give birth now, you're not around to take care of me either. There's still 1 month left. Her mother will take care of her. You can help me deal with it this time when she returns to the capital." Chen Lian looked at Xiao Linmu with a smile and said. Xiao Linmu felt like his head was pounding. He was scolded by Gong Li's parents last time, and he probably wouldn't be able to escape when meeting Chen Miren's parents this time. But who makes me the closest elder to this bastard? What can I do if I don't show up? Xiao Linmu even suspected that he would encounter this kind of situation again in the future. According to Chen Lian's restless character, he didn't know what would happen in the future. Xiao Linmu couldn't help but sigh. His nephew was good at everything, but he was too carefree. He should find someone who could take care of him. However, such people are so difficult to find. Xiao Linmu thought for a long time but couldn't find a suitable candidate from around him. Xiao Linmu looked at Chen Lian and said, "It's okay if I go and meet you. The key thing is, what are you going to do? It depends on her parents' attitude. If it's not easy, just have a wedding." Chen Lian has no other choice, but he will never get a certificate. Just like the outlaw Zhang San said, even if he marries 10 different people 10 times a day, as long as he doesn't get a certificate, it is not a crime. A wedding, Xiao Linmu frowned, and then he figured out Chen Lian's plan. In the end, he could only remain silent helplessly, as there seemed to be no better way. This way at least I have a reasonable explanation for others. After talking about these unhappy topics, the two of them also discussed the top priority of their trip to the capital. The factory estimates that this time's bid will be at least over 100 million, which is really not a good deal. Xiao Linmu is no longer as obsessed with this time's bid as he was last year. Likes and VCD is already number 1 in the industry and a household name in China. It doesn't mean much whether or not it wins the title. What's more, spending hundreds of millions to win the bid, This number is really too big. After hearing this, Chen Lian smiled and said, the estimate is a bit conservative. I think it will take more than 300 million to win this year's bid. The effect of CCTV's Baowan campaign has already been reflected. Kimchi Liquor's business has increased by more than 500 yuan this year, and the price of Baowan is destined to rise from tens of millions to hundreds of millions. In Chen Lian's memory, Kimchi Liquor spent less than 70 million to win the bid last year, but this year it should have spent 320 million. There is a difference of more than 200 million in 2 years, which can already explain how hot the price of CCTV's bid is. Hearing Chen Lian's words, Xiao Linmu felt it was impossible. How could an advertisement be sold for 300 million? Which company has the courage and funds? Xiao Linmu's psychological price is 150 million. If it exceeds this number, he must carefully consider it. However, Chen Lian insists on winning this year's bid. Anyway, he doesn't have to spend so much money at once. After winning the bid, Leixin can completely leave all his peers behind and become the real leader. The plane landed in the capital soon. As soon as Chen Lian and Xiao Linmu came out, they got into Li Dabai's car and rushed home. Li Dabai looked at the rearview mirror from time to time while driving. She hadn't seen Chen Lian for nearly a month. She still missed him, but Xiao Linmu didn't dare to show it to her. After returning home and resting for a while, Xiao Linmu couldn't sit still and wanted to go to Gong Li's place to see his granddaughter. Chen Lian always felt that this title was strange. Xiao Linmu was obviously his elder, so how could he call his daughter granddaughter? However, thinking of Xiao Linmu's eagerness to hold his grandson, Chen Lian immediately took him to Gong Li's place. After arriving, Xiao Linmu's chubby face was filled with smiles. He was holding his granddaughter and was so happy that he couldn't find the north. Chen Lian, the old father, was pushed aside. Seeing Xiao Linmu like this, Chen Lian thought about introducing a boyfriend to his cousin later to see how anxious Lao Qiao was. In Gong Li's bedroom, Chen Lian had just closed the door when he heard her say, I went to register for residence a few days ago. Registered? Why didn't you tell me? Where's your name? Chen Lian was a little excited. Gong Li took out the household registration book from Rosewood and handed it to Chen Lian and said, look for yourself, who told you not to come back? You can't keep your household registration. Chen Lian immediately opened his household registration book and smiled immediately when he saw his daughter's name. He hugged Gong Li and kissed her. Sister, you are so good. Gong Li wiped her face in disgust and said, if I don't let the baby have your last name, will you still have to quarrel with me? Chen Lian hugged Gong Li and said affectionately, of course not. Although I care about this, I won't be angry with you because of it. After all, you have paid the most and you have the right to decide. I don't believe you. Gong Li rolled her eyes at Chen Lian and said, do you think the name Mengli sounds nice? That sounds great. I dream about you every day. I miss you so much. Chen Lian hugged Gong Li, feeling her plump body, and his breathing became rapid. Gong Li's reaction was even greater than that of Chen Lian. She closed her eyes slightly and raised her neck, letting those dishonest hands wander up and down. Chen Lian smelled the milky fragrance on Gong Li's body, felt her weak and boneless body that turned into water, and could no longer hold back the longing and excitement in his heart. There are no tricks, just two men and women expressing their longing and love for each other in the most original way. Early the next morning, Chen Lian and Xiao Linmu appeared at the CCTV building. This year, many more companies participated in the bidding process than in previous years. Chen Lian and Xiao Linmu looked at so many competitors and were not too worried. Among so many companies, there were less than 10 companies that actually had the strength to participate in the bidding for the title. The most important thing is that one of Chen Lian and Xiao Linmu is sure of winning, while the other is not so obsessed with it. They can shoot if they can, and pull down if they can't. The bidding soon began, and hundreds of entrepreneurs sat in their seats and began to wait. Many people were discussing what the sky-high price would be for this year's bidding king. Not far from Chen Lian and Xiao Linmuo, AI duos whose Hibiao also came, but his goal was not the Biao king. AI duo fell completely at a disadvantage in a series of competitions with Li Xian. This year he simply couldn't afford to spend that much money to participate in the auction, so his goal was to get a second-tier advertising space. Xiao Linmuo glanced at him and said, Ado has done a lot of advertising this year, and it still occupies about 1/6 of the market share in the south. Chen Lian glanced at it and said nonchalantly, AI duo is no longer our opponent. What we should be wary of is BBK. Duan's hyping is a character. I know Xiao Linmuo thought of Little Overlord's development experience and felt that this was a more difficult opponent than Hu's Hibiao. However, he is not particularly worried. Leixin's current development momentum is very good. As long as he does not make mistakes in decision-making, he does not have to worry about normal competition. The bidding has already begun, and the companies participating in the bidding this year are indeed similar to what Chen Lian thought. They all became very enthusiastic and seemed to increase their prices without thinking. Last year, the weather forecast advertising space that could be obtained for more than 20 million yuan was raised to more than 80 million yuan this year. It directly exceeds last year's standard price. In fact, there is another reason, and that is the harsh words made by Ji Changkong, the top bidder last year, saying that he drives an Audi from CCTV every day, and his business this year has more than quintupled. Xiao Linmuo couldn't help but turn to look at Chen Lian and said, You are really right. The price this year is much higher than last year. Isn't it strange? I have been working hard for a year, but I haven't made an advertisement yet. Chen Lian smiled and said softly, Besides, the example of Kong's family drinking kimchi liquor was before, who can you not be moved? Xiao Linmuo nodded and said, That's right. Last year we made frequent donations to the newspapers and participated in the home appliance war. Our sales were only 1 billion. Kimchi liquor easily made 1 billion by advertising. So I say that this year's standard price will definitely be very high, and the liquor industry will definitely increase prices crazily this year. Other industries don't have that much money. Then just wait and see. The bidding for King Biao only started at the end. The previous biddings were all for second-level advertisements. Chen Lian and Xiao Linmuo never raised their placards, waiting for King Biao's bidding. Soon the bidding for the king's bid began. Chen Lian and Xiao Linmuo looked at each other and got ready. Xiao Linmuo handed the number plate to Chen Lian and said in a low voice, You can hold up the number plate. You can see it more clearly than me, but remember not to be impulsive. Chen Lian hummed and took the sign without further chatting with Xiao Linmuo. With so many people sitting here and chatting too much, his bottom price would be exposed. It would be embarrassing if someone deliberately raised the price. There will also be situations where prices are raised. The people in the CCTV advertising department are not fools. They must exchange interests with companies with relatively good relationships so that they can raise prices at the right time. Chen Lian doesn't care so much. He has his own psychological price in his heart. He has seen the cards and is much calmer than others. Even if there is an accident this year, Chen Lian is not worried. After all, the price of more than 300 million yuan is not something that just any company can afford. I don't believe how many people can take the final shot this year. The bidding started soon. Chen Lian did not take the lead in raising placards. Those who raised placards in front of him were just joining in the fun. Many people held up placards in front of them with the purpose of participating. After the amount exceeded 100 million, there would be no such thing. Many people raised their signs. 110 million on the 13th, 110 million. After the host shouted a few words, someone immediately increased the price. The price will be directly increased to 120 million on the 8th. Chen Lian didn't expect to directly increase the price by 10 million. She glanced at the two people who had just bid, and she felt they looked familiar, but she couldn't recognize them. They seemed to make healthcare products. No wonder he was so rich, but Chen Lian wasn't worried that they couldn't photograph Biao Wang. Chen Lian, who had never raised a sign, also raised the sign in his hand and shouted a 10 million increase in price. The bidding has reached this point, and you must actively participate and increase the price again and again. Only in this way can you express your determination to win, and it is also a deterrent to competitors. 130 million on the 16th. 130 million. Is there any other boss who wants to bid? After hearing the host's shout, Chen Lian put down the sign in his hand with an extremely calm expression, as if he had just raised the sign as a joke. The reactions of other placard holders are completely different. Every year, CCTV's Bidding King event may be the most spendthrift day for Chinese entrepreneurs. Each time a placard is raised, the price is 10 million. This kind of psychological pressure is not small. The bid on the 21st is 131 million. 135 million. The bid on the 12th is 135 million. Soon the bidding entered a fierce stage, and Chen Lian became a little more serious. He glanced at the boss of Kimchi liquor industry, silently raised the sign in his hand, and directly increased the price by 10 million again. Chen Lian's two consecutive bid increases of 10 million immediately attracted everyone's attention. Many people who did not participate in the bidding began to whisper and ask who this person was. Looking at such a young man, he shouldn't be the second generation of any family. If that's the case, this year's winner would be interesting. However, someone with a sharp eye still recognized Chen Lian and whispered in a low voice, "Grandma, an artist is better at doing business than us, how dare you let me live?" Chen Lian didn't care about those comments. After Ji Changkong of Kimchi liquor industry raised the price to 180 million, he directly increased the price to 200 million. 200 million. The Leixin VCD bid on the 16th is 200 million. Fringe artists in the entertainment industry. Author, Chizu de Xiaomao. Chapter 280. Chapter 271-269. You really know how to pretend, you are not King Biao, you are King B. The data and time in the previous chapter were wrong. It is strongly recommended to refresh and read it again. This plot magically changed CCTV's bidding method. Don't be disrespectful. 200 million. The Leixin VCD bid on the 16th is 200 million. When the price was directly increased to 200 million by Chen Lian, the atmosphere in the venue was instantly detonated, and hundreds of entrepreneurs all focused their attention on Chen Lian. This price is scary enough, and Chen Lian only raised the price to 200 million after calling out the price 3 times. This kind of courage is something that many people did not expect. After all, who doesn't increase prices little by little in an attempt to win the bid at the lowest cost? Now that the price has exceeded 200 million, there are not many people who can continue to increase the price. Everyone is discussing who will win in the end. Chen Lian, who was wearing a black cashmere coat, was sitting on a red chair with a calm expression. His young and handsome face made many people remember this person. Chen Lian gives everyone the feeling of being stable in one word. He has the air of a general. The atmosphere at this time was pushed to the peak, and several powerful people were making quick calculations, but Guo Ji Changkong was the first to follow the price and shouted out a price of 210 million. I tasted the benefits last year, and I am determined to continue winning the bid this year. At this time, everyone's eyes were focused on Ji Changkong from Kimchi liquor industry. Last year's King Biao took action, and everyone still remembered his high-spiritedness before. Whether it was envy or jealousy in my heart, I couldn't help but admire his courage. However, this admiration soon transferred from him to Chen Lian. 230 million, Chen Lian shouted, holding a sign. Grass. Immediately increase the price by 20 million. Is he crazy? All the entrepreneurs from all over the world were frightened by Chen Lian. Even Xiao Linmu was frightened. He quickly took Chen Lian's hand and asked nervously, "Lian, did you add too much in one go?" Chen Lian glanced at Xiao Linmu and said in a low voice, "Second uncle, you have to believe me. This year's bid is worth this price. Why don't you go out and smoke a cigarette to get some fresh air?" Xiao Linmu looked at Chen Lian and said, "You take your pictures. Don't worry about me. I'm fine. As long as I win the bid, the dealer will come over with a sack and send money." Chen Lian said nothing more after hearing this and focused all his attention on the bidding. At this time, the temperature in the venue increased with the fierce bidding. Chen Lian couldn't help but take off his coat and relax slowly. One breath. Although Chen Lian looked calm on the surface, he was still a little nervous in his heart. After all, this was hundreds of millions, not millions. He had never spent so much money before. It really made people's blood boil. Ji Changkong, who was sitting far away, saw Chen Lian taking off his clothes and looking nervous, and couldn't help but chuckle to himself. He was a young man after all, so he really thought he could sit still. 230 million should be his limit. Ji Changkong recalled the news about likes and VCD and felt that they couldn't afford more money. So he held up a sign and added another 100,000 yuan to Chen Lian. That's right, it was 100,000 yuan. Everyone in the venue was confused by Ji Changkong's quote of 100,000 yuan. What is going on? If someone adds tens of millions, you add 100,000. Ji Changkong is out of money? This was the first reaction of everyone in the venue, but soon some smart people came to the conclusion that this was Ji Changkong's psychological warfare. Don't you, Chen Lian, increase your prices more and more every time? Then I will increase it by hundreds of thousands. Let me see how many times you can increase it. If you want to scare me away, you are still a little too young. As long as the price cannot be increased, the momentum will be exhausted, the courage in the heart will be gone, and you will not dare to bid again in the future. Many people who wanted to understand turned their attention to Chen Lian, and couldn't help but feel sorry for him. He was still young and was tricked by Ji Changkong, an old fox. Chen Lian was surprised when Ji Changkong shouted out 100,000, but he quickly figured out the reason and immediately raised the sign to increase the price again. 240 million. 240 million on the 16th. The moment this price appeared, the atmosphere in the venue suddenly became heated again. The look in Chen Lian's eyes was different. Is this because he was confident or impulsive? Of course, Chen Lian was not impulsive, nor was he nervous. He just felt excited. What's the point of being nervous? He was so exhausted that he didn't take a picture. It's not like he had to pay by bidding. And the current price is far from his psychological limit. But Chen Lian didn't want to be disgusted by Ji Changkong all the time. After Ji Changkong shouted out 100,000 again, Chen Lian took a deep look at him, raised the sign in his hand and continued to increase the price, then turned to look at Xiao Linmu. Second uncle, when you go to Ji Changkong, just say the word production capacity, and then ask him to give up the bidding. Xiao Linmu was stunned after hearing this. What kind of operation was this? However, seeing that Chen Lian seemed to have some clues, he still chose to believe it, so he asked in detail, "Are you sure you can say this? There is no need to say anything else." Chen Lian shook his head and said, "No, hurry up, the current price will soon be 300 million, second uncle, you can save tens of millions if you hurry up." Hearing this, Xiao Linmu couldn't sit still, so he immediately stood up and squeezed towards Ji Changkong. Ji Changkong, who had been paying attention to Chen Lian, felt a little strange when he saw this scene, but he continued to add 100,000 yuan to torture Chen Lian's patience. However, Chen Lian will not continue to increase that much at this time. The 240 million he just bid has exceeded most of his competitors. Now he only needs to increase it slowly. Chen Lian held up the sign again, and the host on the stage and other entrepreneurs in the venue were instantly excited, thinking that he was going to increase the price by another 10 million. 241 million. Chen Lian said the price this time without haste. The host was ready to shout out 250 million, but he was stunned for a moment when he heard Chen Lian's words. However, his good professionalism allowed him to react quickly and shout out Chen Lian's latest offer. Ji Changkong was also stunned. Unexpectedly, Chen Lian calmed down and was not affected by him at all. His evaluation of him in his heart was a little higher. A hot-blooded young man is not worthy of attention, but a person who can calm down at critical moments has to be impressive. Ji Changkong narrowed his eyes and wondered whether Chen Lian was about to reach the psychological price point, so he slowed down. After Ji Changkong thought for a short time, he immediately decided to raise the price himself to scare Chen Lian away and break his psychological defense. 250 million, Ji Changkong directly raised the price to 250 million, but he kept looking at Chen Lian, wanting to see his reaction. It's a pity that Chen Lian still looked calm, as if he didn't care about the price he quoted. Everyone in the venue was stimulated by this reversal, and the atmosphere instantly became heated again. Chen Lian calmly raised the sign in his hand and added another 1 million to the price. The two polls have reversed, and Chen Lian is not in a hurry at this time. When the second uncle and Ji Changkong talk to each other, the bidding will be over. The changes made by Chen Lian and Ji Changkong also affected other bidders. At this time, they all became cautious in their bids. They imitated Ji Changkong's previous bid and increased it by tens of thousands. At this time, Xiao Linmu had already squeezed in front of Ji Changkong, with sweat on his chubby face. He slowly breathed a sigh of relief and wiped the sweat off his forehead. After Ji Changkong made another quotation, he walked up to him. He whispered in front of him, "Director Ji, my boss asked me to bring you a message." Xiao Linmu didn't say that Chen Lian was his nephew. That would have seemed very unimpressive and not bluffing enough. Ji Changkong glanced at him and frowned and said, "What did he want to say?" Production capacity, Kinchi Liquor Industries production capacity. Xiao Linmu looked into Ji Changkong's eyes and said, "Director Ji, think about it carefully." After saying that, Xiao Linmu left without giving Ji Changkong time to answer. This would also create psychological pressure on Ji Changkong, and even if it didn't make him give up the bidding, it would interfere with his thoughts. Xiao Linmu still hadn't figured out why Chen Lian asked him to say this, and he felt a little guilty. It's a pity that Xiao Linmu, who had already turned around, didn't notice how ugly Ji Changkong's face was. Ji Changkong naturally understood the meaning of what he just said. Kinchi Liquor Industry is only a small county-level winery, and its production capacity cannot keep up. This year, a quarter of the tens of thousands of tons of wine produced is purchased bulk wine or alcohol blended. If this matter is exposed, Kinchi Liquor Industry will be doomed. Even if it takes the title of this year, it will not be able to save it, and hundreds of millions of advertising fees may even be wasted in vain. Ji Changkong turned his head and looked in Chen Lian's direction, his eyes filled with anger. Chen Lian had been paying attention to Ji Changkong. When he looked over, Chen Lian nodded at him, his expression extremely calm, as if he was not the one who had just asked for the message. Ji Changkong's hand holding the number plate was about to be crushed. He really wanted to rush over and punch Chen Lian in the face. This little guy can really pretend. The more Ji Changkong looked at Chen Lian, the angrier he became, but his brain was running rapidly, thinking about what he should do. Giving up the bidding seemed to be the only option, but he was unwilling to do so. If he gave up, Kinchi Liquor would have a very difficult time next year. He needs the advertising effect of CCTV to keep himself alive. But at this time, he was worried that the production capacity issue would be exposed by Chen Lian. In that case, no advertising would be able to save him. Just when Ji Changkong was in a dilemma, Chen Lian raised his hand again. This time he directly reported the price to 280 million. 280 million. 280 million for likes and VCD on the 16th, the host shouted excitedly, and the man stood up again. Come on, keep raising prices. More than 300 million. The price of 280 million directly eliminated all other competitors, and now only Kinchi liquor industry may be able to compete with Chen Lian. Everyone turned their attention to Ji Changkong, wanting to see if he would still make an offer. At this time, Ji Changkong looked ugly and was deeply entangled. First time for 280 million yuan, after the host shouted, he paused for a moment and kept looking at Ji Changkong. Others also looked at Ji Changkong, expecting him to continue to increase the price. This battle for the king was so exciting that although they did not have the strength to participate, they all wanted to continue watching. Ji Changkong turned to look in the direction of Chen Lian and found that he was looking at him with a smile, looking like a man-eating beast under his calm eyes. The number plate I wanted to raise just now was put down again. 280 million for the second time. It's your last chance, if you don't bid, you won't have a chance. Everyone couldn't help but hold their breath and look at Ji Changkong. Ji Changkong gritted his teeth and the emotions on his face changed several times. The number plate he was holding tightly was finally released and fell from his hand. Ji Changkong let out a long breath, sat weakly on the chair, and looked at Chen Lian with eyes full of helplessness and anger. Seeing Ji Changkong like this, everyone knew his choice, and the host on the stage stopped delaying time. 280 million for the third time. An achievement. Let us congratulate number 16 likes and VCD for winning the prime time slot next year. The moment the host finished speaking, the venue immediately burst into applause, and everyone looked at Chen Lian with admiration. However, some people noticed that Jiao Linmuo, who was next to Chen Lian, appeared in front of Ji Changkong once before, said something and left, and then Ji Changkong gave up the bidding. There must be some hidden secret here, maybe this Chen Lian is really some kind of third generation. But the more I think about it, the less I dare to say it. If the background is really clear, I can't afford to offend him. The king of bids has arrived. At this moment, Chen Lian felt deafening applause all around him, and the excitement in his heart reached its peak at this moment, but he still maintained his persona, looking calm and calm. Jiao Linmuo was also excited. He didn't expect that Ji Changkong really gave up the bidding and really won the bid. Next year, likes and sales will definitely double or even quintuple. Lian. We really got it? King Biao, you are King Biao. Chen Lian gently tugged on his turtleneck sweater and said, it's just a standard king. It's only 280 million. It's really cheap. After CCTV's winning bid was announced, a bunch of reporters who had been waiting here immediately gathered around. CCTV's cameras were all on Chen Lian's face, and other media were also competing with each other at this time. At this time, they all became uneasy after hearing Chen Lian's words that 280 million was really cheap. What you photographed is not the king of standards but the king of B, you can really pretend. But they are still obsessed with the number 280 million. It's 4 times higher than last year. I originally thought that breaking 100 million was a big deal, but who would have thought that there were actually 280 million? On the night when the bidding ended, the news was broadcast on all TV stations, and Chen Lian instantly became a national celebrity. Chen Lian has appeared in newspapers and magazines before, but the sensation he caused was far from that big. This time, everyone, young and old, really knew about it. Many people who knew Chen Lian were a little unbelievable at this time, 280 million. What the hum is this concept? I have a rich friend? People who are close to Chen Lian are not so surprised by his wealth, but are surprised that Chen Lian really has the courage and means. People who didn't know Chen Lian that well were shocked to death. The biggest topic tonight on Nortel's campus was Chen Lian. Fu Dalong, who was in the same class as Chen Lian, couldn't help but scolded, "You idiot, you can't tell. You are so rich and you cheated me out of soda last time." Many people in the girls' dormitory were also sighing. The senior is so awesome and so calm. Only 280 million. But it's not just the people from Nortel who are lamenting. It's the first time for many people in the industry to know that this bastard in the entertainment industry is not only an artist but also a rich man. This is simply unreasonable. Why do people like you come to the entertainment industry to be actors? Why not just be the sponsor and wait for us to lick you? Huo Jiankai, who was preparing for a new movie at this time, couldn't help but muttered, "Why don't you ask Lian to invest? I have already changed the script obediently. It should be no problem for him to invest 1 or 2 million. Huo Jiankai thought about it for a while and suddenly remembered that Chen Lian mentioned Su Qing last time. It seemed that he really wanted to talk to Su Qing. Su Qing must be invited. The storm of CCTV's title of king is still brewing at this time, and when it explodes, Chen Lian will really rise to the top. But there will be more troubles. For example, a certain beauty with a big belly has another idea at this time.